This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to Monday Motorsport. We are live right now on motorsport.radio. My name is Lester. Hello and welcome to the show. Coming up on tonight's programme, we have got a fantastic couple of hours for you, including lots of interviews from the likes of Mr. Nick Yellerly, who was at the Silverstone Classic over the weekend, driving the Nigel Mansell's 1992 Williams around there, making people's ears bleed. They sound so good. We'll have a couple of highlights from that and be hearing from Nick Yellerly himself later in the show. Plus, we will hear from the likes of Kelvin Fletcher, who will be here later to tell us about how you can win a rider experience with Kawasaki. Tell you more about that later. Kiko Alexander-Giles is coming up a bit later on as well to give us the latest on all the bike world, including maybe Suzuka, the 8 hours that happened at the weekend, and giving us a sort of a second half of the season review from BSB, and giving us an update and a bit of a preview with the latest MotoGP rounds as well. That's all still to come. Plus interviews with Formula Ford racing driver and SsangYong Trophy Series driver Michael O'Brien. Plus some other F1 Masters historic F1 drivers as well. Plus Dan Maher's F1 grid walk. I know, he's here doing that. We'll be hearing from British GT driver, amongst other things. He is the multi-talented John Minshaw. He's coming up on the show. We've got loads of, let's just say we've got loads of different things, including a massive big preview about the British GT Championship as well, with our guest on tonight's show. Please welcome Dan Maher. Hi, Dan.
Good evening, Lester. Good evening, everybody.
How are you?
I'm rather well, thank you. I'm more relaxed than I was over the weekend. I calculated it, 13 miles I walked this last weekend, so you know.
Not bad, I would say. 13 miles is pretty. It's a decent amount of miles, I would say. So,
considering we had shuttles from the car park to the media centre.
We did, yes, that was a good thing. But yeah, I mean, everyone knows that being if you are a photographer, and if you've certainly not even a photography, if you've just been out and about a paddock, walking around for the entire weekend, you'll know that your feet certainly hurt, especially at things like the Autosport show. The Silverstone Classic is a bit like the Autosport show, but with real cars, really racing.
Real racing.
Yeah. Not to sound sort of
no,
elitist or anything.
We're not too.
I didn't mean it like it's better than the Autosport. No, because I love that as well. But yeah, Silverstone Classic happened, and we collected a good fair number of interviews. Oh yeah, sorry, I did forget to mention as well. I think David Brabham's on the show as well.
Aha.
Yes. How can I forget that? But I did. So, David Brabham's coming up, and I managed to catch a word with him, and he's usually quite difficult to get a hold of anyway, at the best of times, because he's always sort of darting away doing Brabham-type things. Yeah, sort of. He still leads a rather gloriously busy lifestyle, because he's David Brabham, and why not? That's what one would do. But anyway, we caught up with him, myself and Dan Maher, and we were both camera people at the and interviewers. Yeah, that's journalists as well. So at various points tonight, you will see the fruits of our labour that we got up to over the weekend, including what Dan Maher had been producing with his 13 miles of walking. And also, yeah, there was other things happening as well as the Silverstone Classic, like the British Touring Car Championship, 3 races at Snetterton from the weekend, and I think there was a little thing about Formula 1 as well, that even happened, plus the climax of the FIA Formula E Championship at Montreal, which to my annoyance, and I bet not just me as well, because before I left, just want to get this out of the way, this is my soapbox moments, before I left to go racing for the weekend, I'd gone on my Sky Planner to find the Formula E so it records, saw it was on Channel 5 on the Saturday, albeit a bit delayed from what I understand, and then couldn't find it on the Sunday. I thought, whatever, I don't know what to do. Didn't even know it was on Spike TV. What the hell is Spike TV? until it was too late. I think I saw a tweet, a Facebook message from Andy J saying, "Oh, we're on Spike later, so join us there." And by that time, of course, I was at Silverstone, and I thought, well, that's that then. I'm never going to watch it because they don't stream it in the UK live, the race anyway, because it's on Spike TV. But that anyway, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
It was interesting.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, certainly. Because the first race was good. I'm not going to talk about it in case you haven't seen it, because you probably Sky Plus it because you were busy doing other things. But,
Stop being bitter, Lester.
But yeah, it just needs to be said. That's all, because we do like to. I like a consistent channel. And if one thing Formula E is to succeed and thrive and everything, then it certainly has to be on one channel, is what I would say. Do you agree with that? Just like Formula One. I mean, nobody, I don't think, would stand for Formula One being on one channel one week and then the next race being on a completely different thing, something that probably people don't even have the next week.
I was about to say, isn't that what happens now anyway?
Not really. No, it's always on Channel 4 and it's always on Sky, and people know where, the stuff is. Maybe it was just my fault, I don't know. But anyway, I've not seen the second Formula E race yet. Boo me. But also, yeah, Spa 24 Hours was on as well. Of course it was. And yes. Dan's got some news about that. Let's start off with that, in fact. Spa 24, if you didn't see it, Dan has brief updates, brief news clips of it. So if you don't want to know the scores now, tough, basically. Dan, who won? What happened? And is everybody okay?
Well, it was an interesting race, and of course it saw Audi win, but maybe not the Audi you expected. Christopher Haase, Gugnon and Marcus Winkelhock took the win in the Audi R8 LMS, the Team Santalot car. Really? The Team Santalot car? Yeah, the 25, not the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, which were all the Audis and the Mercedes. It was a Audi which was effectively privateer. Maxime Soule, Vincent Abril and Andy Soucek took second place, just 11.8 seconds behind in the number 8 Bentley Continental GT3, and the Mortara, Meadows and Marciello Aka ASP Mercedes took third place. It was an interesting race. Of course, James Calado put it on pole in the Kaspersky Ferrari. It went up I believe actually, there was contact with the number 55 and the number 90 Mercedes, which took the Kaspersky car out of the race after the lead of the race. It all looked rather interesting. The Porsches were getting involved at the end as well. It was all getting rather tight, and unfortunately there was a couple of accidents. Of course, passing the Thoras had a big shunt coming up the top of Eau Rouge very early on in the race. Luckily got out of the car perfectly fine. The car completely horrendously damaged, but was completely fine. He walked out, taken to the medical centre as a precaution, and was released almost instantly. Sadly, though, could not be said the same of Adrian Amstutz. And in fact, a statement from Barwell Motorsport yesterday said, unfortunately, early on Sunday morning, our Lamborghini Huracan GT3 number 77 was involved in an accident at Stavelot Corner during the Spa 24 Hours. Our driver, Adrian Amstutz, sustained some non-life-threatening injuries in the accident. The Spa incident medical teams were immediately on the scene to assist him. He was taken to the Circuit Medical Centre, where he was stabilised and treated by its medical staff, and has been transferred from there to Liège Hospital in a stable condition and sustained some second-degree burns and a broken rib. The managing director of Barwell Motorsport, Mark Clever, is currently with Adrian at hospital. This was yesterday, and reports that he is talking to him and his teammate Martin Kodrick and is in good spirits. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the circuit marshals, internet teams and medical teams for their fantastic efforts, plus also the race director and all of the team at SRO for their help. I'm sure everyone in the world of GT racing will join us in wishing Adrian a speedy recovery.
Oh, well, yes, we of course extend our empathies,
well-wishes
to the team and the driver, and certainly hope he gets back on track very soon. But in terms of the actual results, any sort of standout performances, any notable drives that you spotted from the Spa 24?
Well, that's what's got to be said, is the fact that to get to the finish of the Spa 24 Hours, it's a very difficult race. Of course, it did rain, it's Spa, but it was a very tricky race. it made for some great racing, and I think again the Christoph Haase Gunnyon Winkelhock car, that's done a really stellar drive in the end to take a good victory. Bentley ever so close. They were like this position last year. They did just manage to get onto the podium this time. Mercedes in third place, Porsche in fourth place. That was really close. It was an interesting race, and it was also a great race from Sally Ollock, Ewan Hankey, Johnny Adam, and Ahmad El Harthi, who took second place in the Pro-Am class. It was won by the Black Falcon Mercedes-AMG GT3, but the second place in Pro-Am meant that TF Sport, or Oman Racing Team with TF Sport, the number 97 car, has taken the Pro-Am title in Blancpain. So fantastic, congratulations to them. And to add even more accolades to Johnny Adams, 12 months he's won the British GT Championships, he's won in ELMS, he's won at Le Mans, so a great result for him, a great few results for him, and another good title for him.
Yeah, well done indeed, and I have to hold my hands up because and say I haven't seen any of the highlights, to my great shame, but that's only because we were, as you know, Dan, at Silverstone covering the Silverstone Classic of 2017, and for the first time ever, I enjoyed 3 full hearty days of rocking and racing, and it really was. And I've already heard that it was a record-breaking event, and it usually is one of the best events on the entire calendar for people to go to who traditionally sort of don't or sort of fall through the cracks of the allure of Formula One and maybe even MotoGP, sort of thing. It's really something for more of a family sort of event, really, because it is a massive event, really, and there is something for everyone there.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't rocking and racing so much as this year was raining and racing, I'm afraid to say. It
did rain a little tiny
bit.
Slightly.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, but they can't help that.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, it was a great meeting. To lead on the record-breaking results, I believe they had 130 McLarens on track during the Sunday lunch parade lap, in fact, which for one I was in my uncle's very nice Maserati. We went around the circuit, but it was an interesting one, and there was so many McLarens. It was a shame. I saw this beautiful P1 in this wonderful, I believe it's a grey wrap, but sadly half of the front right wheel rim was curved quite badly, and it sort of made me cry a little bit. But it was a great race. I must admit, it was a great race meeting. Some fantastic stuff going on out there. There was brilliant car displays, some interesting food, it's a fantastic spectacle to watch historic racing in any capacity, but doing it in the rain, in the cold and in the rain, it's a really emotive thing. I mean, I stayed for the Group C race on Saturday night when it's usually held from sort of in the dusk conditions, but adding the wet, it really gives a flavour being a Le Mans in the period, with the spices and the Nissans. There was a beautiful Jaguar XJR 12, which was being raced by Sean Lynn, of which you might not recognise the first name, but you'll certainly recognise the second name.
Alex Lynn's dad!
That's the one. And he was driving in a Jaguar, and it was absolutely stunning. It was fantastic conditions, the super touring cars. I've got some good footage, actually, of that. Hopefully you'll see over the next week or so. Some great stuff going on there. In fact, John Minshaw was racing, but his brother Jason was winning both races, I believe, in the Volvo S40. We've got some great interviews of that, and some quite interesting news about the British GTs, on some interesting insight into John Minshaw's mind for the coming British GT meeting this weekend.
Yeah, certainly, and in fact, let's, as though it was almost planned because we're professionals, let us segue into a quick chat that Dan had with John Minshaw after he stepped off the podium in one of his couple of races. I think he didn't just do one race at the weekend.
He was doing a lot. He was doing a lot of racing this weekend.
Yes, both him and the whole family was there. Yeah,
and Phil Keane as well.
Indeed. So anyway, this is Dan's brief chat with John Minshaw, and he was a little reluctant to talk about this weekend's British GT race, but he did it anyway. Dan! Oh dear.
John Minsell here, second place in the first of the Super Touring Car Trophy races here at the Silverstone Classic. Interesting start in the Audi A4. There was contact with, I think, one of the Hondas. It all got a bit skew with.
Well, I think it was both Hondas. Graham came round the outside. I got tapped up the back. Graham turned into me. I think he had nowhere to go, and then which forced me into James. So it was really quite unfortunate. So I feel sorry for those guys really, because I think it screwed their race up.
Of course, Jason in the Volvo, great race, great victory for him.
Well, I didn't see him. I didn't even see him in the race. He was long gone.
But it was a great battle, of course. It's going to be, traffic must have been quite a big one as well, I suppose, with some of the slower Group 1 and Group A cars.
Well, yeah, and I caught Dave Jarman. I caught him napping a little bit. They got behind some of the slower Group 1 cars, and they just sat and waited. And with the Audi four-wheel drive, I sort of around Maggots and Beckett's went around the outside of it, and sort of, I'm not sure they realised there was that much grip there.
And of course, Silverstone Classic makes a bit of a difference compared to the Silverstone 500 and British GT and Blancpain you've been doing this year.
Yeah, I suppose this is the closest I'm going to get to driving a modern car. No, it felt quite good actually. I mean, I actually really enjoyed it. It was first time in the car and really enjoyed it. Looking forward to Alton Park.
So you're going to be out at the Gold Cup as well?
I'll try. We'll see how it looks, but I'm hoping so.
It's going to be interesting as well. Back to British GT next weekend. It could be the big one.
Yeah, I'm sort of not thinking about that yet. But
okay, let's not mention it.
Well, it's been playing on my mind. I know it's a big race. That it's a bit of a decider. If we have a bit of bad luck, there's only 2 races left. There's big points, and we're only 12 points in the lead. So there's plenty to lose.
But there's still plenty to enjoy here at the Silverstone Classic. You've been driving a couple of other cars as well.
Yeah, we had a bit of bad luck with the Lister this morning. The upright broke. They hold a piston in my pre-63 type. I'm out in the E-type this afternoon, but I think that's not really quite competitive. So that's going to be that'll be a bit of fun. And then I've got the Lola tomorrow.
Don't be too rough on that one.
Well, I mean that's a really hot race that, and we've got a tyre issue and a bit of a setup issue, but we're going to use it as a bit of a test.
Well, best of luck, John.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
John Minshaw talking to Dan Marr at the weekend, and he was, as you heard, he was quite reluctant to touch on what was the prospect of a possibly awkward British GT round coming up this weekend at Brands Hatch, where we will be attending and capturing all the events and the goings-on this weekend for Motorsport.radio. And that was John Minshaw, and probably best. I don't think we should dwell too much on what he said there regarding, because he doesn't. I mean, you lured it out of him, Dan, in that the British GT race. He said it was a pivotal. I think that were his words. A pivotal moment in the championship. We'll just wish him the best of luck, I suppose, without sort of jinxing it too much. John Minshaw there. Thank you very much for chatting to us. Also, as well, Dan had a chat with Gary Pearson as well. Who's Gary Pearson, I hear you ask? Who is he, Dan?
Gary Pearson, he's a very prolific historic racer, something I didn't get to say at the time. He is a big fan of Jaguars. He's quite often raced at Goodwood and in lots of historic festivals. Very, very quick no matter what he gets into. His race, we interviewed him just after the pre-56 sports car race. It was a bit of a tricky one for him. Well, I think we discussed why in the interview that's coming up now, but it was a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, here he is chatting to our Dan. It's Gary Pearson.
Quite a wide variety of historic cars Gary likes to drive, and very nice Lister with quite bad front brakes at the last half of the race, you were saying.
Yeah, the brakes were starting to go, and then during the pit stop, I think we've got a bit of heat soak in the brakes, so the pedal's gone to the floor now, and we've virtually completely lost the front brakes. What is there is sort of dragging a bit, but great.
So, of course, the Lister, just tell us a bit more about this Lister, first of all.
This is a really historic Lister, actually. It was, it's been a Asian car all of its life, and it was sold new to Jim Hall of Chaparral Cars. This is the car in 1958 that Jim Hall started racing. Jim was such an innovator. He was always trying different ideas and things, which is why it's got these things that look like gun turrets on the top of it. It's got a big airbox on top of the carburettor. He took them off quite quickly, and I'm not surprised actually, because I hadn't driven it before qualifying yesterday. I normally race with a open face helmet and goggles, and the turbulence caused by these intakes was pulling the goggles off my face. So qualifying had to come in and put the full face helmet on, which is in the truck. But it's a monster of a thing. I think with a little bit more sorting, that's a race winner. We're fourth now. We just had a really good race with two other listed Jaguars. Really good race. It'd be nice to do a bit more with it.
So of course I believe it's not just the Leicester you're driving this weekend. Have you got a bit of a highlight? I know some race meetings you're in pretty much everything, but
yeah, we got 5 races this weekend. Got the D-Type over there, long-nose D-Type, driving with brother John in the Woodcut Trophy. Then this evening we're sharing his E-Type in the Gallet International Trophy, Gentleman Drivers GT race. And then tomorrow, what have we got tomorrow? Oh yeah, the D-Type race tomorrow. Then in the afternoon we've got Lola T70 in the Masters, FIA Masters Historic Sports, and straight after that it's the Jaguar Challenge in another E-Type.
It's an interesting meeting, the Silverstone Classic. You must love it coming back.
It's a wonderful meeting. It's our local one as well. Our workshop's only sort of 10 minutes away. It's always been one of the best festivals, and it's 25 years of it this year. I think I've done every one of them, and it just gets better and better. It certainly is a huge festival with the 2 sites, the 2 paddocks. Once that started happening, and people understand that everything happens in the old paddock in the morning, all the qualifyings and races, and in the afternoon all the crowds go over to the other side. It's 2 different atmospheres. It's a really interesting meeting, great meeting.
And it must be interesting, of course. You drive a lot of cars around here. I bet there's a couple you really wish you could go out in.
The Group C's. I was lucky enough to spend nearly 10 years doing historic Group C with JD Classics in an XJR11 turbocharged Jaguar, which was just a phenomenal car. They've sold all the Group C cars now, so I haven't done Group C for about 3 or 4 years. And to watch those, Sean Lynn's got an XJR12 here, which is my favourite. There's the Mercedes, the Sauber Mercedes. Watching those go around, that does make me wish I was out there doing it.
And any other sort of choices that I can imagine, as well as Group C, the FIA historic F1 cars could be quite interesting?
I've always fancied one of those, because being local, Northampton was a school, was where I was going to school in the 70s, and that's where the Shadows were made. And I was always a Tom Price fan of that era, the mid 70s, mid to late 70s. And to see those going around, I really fancy that. But I've never driven one.
So what are your other plans for the year? I imagine you'll be going to Goodwood for the revival, but...
Yeah, Goodwood for the revival with a Ferrari 250 LM for the TT.
So it's all right for some, isn't it?
It's a dirty job. Hopefully the D-Type there, Sussex Trophy. Weekend. Well, we've got a bit of a break now from racing, which is nice for August because we've got a lot of work to do. But first weekend of September, really, first, second, third, we're at Zandvoort for the historic race there, which is in that Zandvoort's a really good circuit. Following weekend we've got Goodwood Revival, then the following weekend it's a Spa 6-hour meeting with a load of stuff there. So we're going to need the 4 weekends of not racing to catch up with things.
A hectic life, isn't it?
It's a great job. It's a great job.
Well, cheers, thank you very much, Gary. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Cheers now, bye.
Gary Pearson talking to Dan Marr, and Gary, as you were saying, Dan is quite the prolific racing driver in various machines over the years, and unfortunate for him, when we spoke to him, you actually helped him wheel his a Lister back into his little garage area, having suffered some sort of unfortunate brake issue there.
Yeah, the Lister car, the Lister Chevrolet rather, very beautiful car. It's been adapted obviously back in period. He's put those, as he said, the air scoops in the car just to make it. I don't know why they did it in period. We should have asked him a bit more about it really, but a little bit different from the normal Listers. Of course, they're making recreations one. This is an original one. He said the front brakes were dragging all the way through the first or the second half of the race. Bearing in mind it was a 50-minute race, about 25 minutes of dragging front brakes. When we were trying to push it back in, the thing stunk. You could just smell
it did a bit.
Well, you could smell the brakes that have been dragging, so we had to help push it in a little bit. Lester got some good footage, I think, but no, it's one of those things. Everyone mucks in at these sorts of classic racing events. You don't tend to see it in other types of motorsport where fans, are asked, can you help me do this, can you help me do that? you certainly wouldn't see it somewhere like the British Touring Cars, I couldn't imagine.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I think it was the mechanics were some way behind him, and there was no one there to help him. And
oh no, that is understandable.
The machine was extremely heavy, from what I could gather.
Well, it wasn't actually that heavy. It was actually quite light. You got to forget, you got to remember rather, that racing cars are quite light. But it was dragging front brakes never make it easy.
Oh, well, that as well. And big hello to Lister, the Lister Cars, the official Twitter feed, who liked us, liked one of our tweets that I suppose we put out earlier today, and also to Lawrence Whitaker, who's interacted with motorsport.radio as well. So, hello. And incidentally, because we are live, you can send us a message right now. And also, if we're not live, i.e. any time but not now, if you mean, put a comment in the comments box is what I'm trying to say. Don't forget to share us and like us, because we are motorsport.radio, and this is Monday Motorsport, and my name is Lester. Dan Marr is here. Kiko Alexander Giles will be joining us in a little while to talk a bit about bikes, plus Kelvin Fletcher will be here to tell us how exactly you can save a huge chunk of time out of your life. Find out what the hell he's talking about, and also for your chance to win a rider experience thanks to Kawasaki, all coming up, and details on how to enter that in the show. We will move swiftly on to some more interviews, might as well, because we've got loads more interviews to do. Steve Parrish, as part of the bike legends who were attending the Silverstone Classic at the weekend, we managed to collar him for a couple of moments for a brief chat to find out why he was there, basically. Yeah, basically, and this is what he had to say. At the Silverstone Classic, and I'm with celebrity racer, driver and rider, Steve Parrish. Hello.
Hello, and good morning. How exciting is this?
It is exciting. And I've heard a lot of comments that this event keeps getting better and better every year.
Well, I actually can't comment because I've not been to this event. In fact, that's not true. I think I came 10 years ago when it was perhaps the Coys Festival or something like that. But I love it. I'm a petrol head, and there's all sorts of different things and smells and noises, and long may it continue. I'm loving it. And like you say, riding some bikes around for a demo and then driving some Austin A30s or A35s around. So what could possibly go wrong?
Indeed, what could go wrong? Indeed, yes. So, have you had any practice out on the? What are you driving today?
An Austin A30, and there's A35s and A30s in it. We're all in the same cars, and there's people from the kind of athletics world, celebrities from there. There's people from television, motorcycle racing guys, car racing guys. But no, I haven't. I only did my ARDS test about a month ago. My licence had lapsed because I've raced in four-wheeled or six-wheeled vehicles for about 16 years. So it's all a bit new to me now. Yeah.
Wow, 16 years, that sounds a little hard to believe, but it's amazing, really. And tell us about the bike that you're racing and going around in.
I'm going to be riding is that one over there. It's a pretty super bike machine, all painted up in sheen colours, which is perfect for my era. It's a 1000cc Suzuki. They've got lots of R1 Yamahas here that Freddie Spencer, Wayne Gardner and Freddie Sheen's riding. Some old two-stroke machines. So there's a whole collection of different bikes here for the whole weekend, and they should make some lovely noises.
Yeah, and certainly some of the other bike legends joining you out on track in the cars as well.
Absolutely, there is definitely Wayne Gardner, Freddie Spencer, myself, Maria Costello, and I think our team captain is Steve Soper, who told me that the A35's a bit... I asked him what it's like to drive, and he said a bit like an MOT failure. So we'll wait and see exactly what that's like when we get to have a drive in it. And I think it's going to be wet as well, just to add a bit more complication to it all.
I'm sure it'll lead to maybe a new chapter in your show, perhaps. Which is still going strong, I believe.
Yeah, the Mad Tour is still going strong. We've got 3 left to do this year. One in St Ives near Cambridge, then we've got Potters Bar London, and one down near Bristol at Burnham-on-Sea. They're going strong. I'm also writing a book, so there could be a chapter in my book as well about it all. So we'll see how it all ends up at the end of the day. But really looking forward to it, and great to meet up with so many of my old mates from the motor racing fraternity.
I'm sure nobody will be giving an inch out on track, either on a bike or in a car. I'm anticipating a lot of madness.
You know what it's like when the visor goes down. There'll be all sorts of chaos, I'm sure. But we'll wait and see. We're older, more mature gentlemen now than we used to be, aren't we? Probably not.
We'll see.
We will.
Steve, thank you for joining us on Motorsport Radio.
Pleasure, and great to be here.
Cheers. The legend Steve Parrish taking a couple of minutes out of his morning to be interrogated by myself, and the actual celebrity race that happened on the Saturday was as messy as I'd predicted. There was a car that rolled on its roof and then back onto its wheels again. I think that was Ant Anstead.
Yes, it was.
And I think Maria Costello. I've got the list of celebrities who were in there's quite a few, but some of them I won't name because you probably won't know who they are. But to be fair, I mean, some of the criteria who qualify for legends, I think I could have maybe gone in as celebrities on
you
that
are
particular
so
race.
Cynical.
But anyway, moving swiftly on. But yeah, Steve Parrish taking part in that celebrity race, and as was some of the other bike legends, as he touched on there, Wayne Gardner, Freddie Spencer, Phil Reed, Niall Mackenzie, of course, Freddie Sheen, Steve himself, Remy Gardner, and Maria Costello as well. And you caught up with Maria just before she was about to go out on track for her race, and we'll give you that interview later in the week, maybe tomorrow. And that was kind of interesting. She had a bit of a disappointing race, I'll tell you that much. But also the Super Touring cars were also out on track, and there were a lot of them, Dan.
Yes, it was a really good field. Some good Super Touring cars out there, as well as some good Group A and Group 1 cars. In fact, we had this beautiful BMW 635, which had come all the way from Australia. Gorgeous engine. Went out for qualifying, sounded as sweet as anything, and then about 3 laps in, just as sod's law, right, just as I moved away from the loop to get some footage, I saw this big bloom of smoke, and the BMW was up and the engine had gone. Luckily, they did get it repaired, and they got it back for both races, and it was a rather nice thing indeed. And speaking of engines going, we were actually meant to have 2 Volvo S40s out. Unfortunately, Lindsay O'Donnell's car had an engine, the engine seized itself, so they coming from all the way from New Zealand, the organisers found that they had a separate car on circuit, which maybe isn't a standard period car, but they let them race anyway, which was quite nice to see. And in fact, we did catch up with Lindsay O'Donnell, it was a very nice chat, very enthusiastic. It's great to see the passion that the guys and girls down in New Zealand, down in Australia, and the whole of Australasia had a great passion for English motorsport and just motorsport in general.
Certainly, and here he is, Dan, catching up with the New Zealander, Lindsay O'Donnell.
Had an interesting couple of days here at the Silverstone Classic. You originally entered in a Volvo S40, but sadly that's not come to be. Why is that?
No, we had to seize the engine in the second session of testing yesterday. Turn it off in time, but it's needs a new fresh engine, and the other engine is in Sweden being freshened and isn't ready for this meeting. So yeah, we're out in the Volvo S40, which was a car we bought last year and raced here, and it's an original BTCC car. Then went to Australia and it was ran by Jim Richards, and then by chance is now a domicile back in New Zealand, apart from this weekend. So we're off to Old Timers in 2 weeks' time, and the fresh engine will be back in it, and we'll be running it then. Okay.
And of course, next to us then you've got a BMW, which is a bit different from a front-wheel drive Volvo.
Right, well, that's just sheer coincidence. It's a car we bought before we come over here, just to run 3-hour endurance series in New Zealand, which we do in a Porsche GT3 normally. But this is a car that's a potential class-winning car when we get it back to New Zealand, and so it arrived today after lunch from Luxembourg, and the organisers have kindly let me run for track time for the sake of having come this far. So we've done a quick pre-race check over and put some fresh tyres on it, and I'm learning to drive it, and it's got a few things to sort out, and we've got a few issues, but at least I'm on the track.
So of course you said this isn't your first time at Silverstone. It's just tell us a bit about what else you've done around the circuit.
I first came here in 2005 with a group of New Zealanders, come over with Formula 5000 cars with the invitation of Frank Lyons, and we all had such a wonderful time and enjoyed the track. And so it's taken many years. It took about 8 or 9 years to get back last year, and where Kiwis come over with S40 Volvo, BMW Super Tourer, so we're in a BMW M3. and we've bought 2 or 3 cars from here and shipped back, which some of them are back here this year, including the Matt Neal Nism Primera that you've just talked about. So, you know, we love coming here. It's a fantastically big meeting. It's a lovely circuit, and it's worth the effort.
And I was going to say, actually, it seems there's a lot of European cars have it seemed to go over to New Zealand. We saw lots of like the Sopa and Harvey 92 BMWs, which of course legendary around the Silverstone circuit. Lots of individual Super Tours, the Formula 5000s are incredibly popular over there as well. Just sort of explain to us why European cars seem to be so popular over there, these racing cars anyway.
Well, I guess from our point of view, we were all young children when Jim Clark and Graham Hill and Jackie Stewart used to come out in the Tasman Series and race in the off-season. And that's, as boys, we used to follow that. And we used to have the equivalent to current Formula 1 stars out on our tracks. And that's the passions grew for a lot of us. So we think nothing of going from one side of the world to the other, because we've always had. And so we follow your motorsport very closely.
And of course, just one final point, of course, next to us, the number 4, a legendary S40, another very similar car. Obviously, one of the Minshaw's taken pole in this, you suggest, as well. So that's hopefully giving you a few tips as to how to run yours back at home.
Yeah, no, well, Jason's been very good with his support for us, and him and Johnny Westbrook have really aided us a lot in their knowledge, and we're responsible for me buying the Volvo, actually. So, you know, we're just one big team here, and we're supported, you know, by Jason, and we've met a lot of the original team members and engineers for Volvo and TWR at the time. So it's good. We hope to have them out here in places like Bathurst or Wellington Street Race type tracks with these cars, well, not so much in New Zealand, but certainly in Australia. So maybe we'll get some reciprocal interest from people over here.
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. It's great to see that you're enjoying it, and have a great weekend.
Good. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Lindsay O'Donnell had an unfortunate start to his Silverstone Classic return, but yeah, massive amounts of enthusiasm from people being attracted from all over the world to this event, and that's extraordinary in some ways.
In many ways.
Yeah, but he obviously loves the event, and you can see that he and hear very much so that he still has the passion and the fire to bring his cars that he ships over to New Zealand back to the UK for nothing other than just pure enjoyment of racing at the Silverstone Classic at Silverstone with big grids in front of a guaranteed big crowd. So thank you, Lindsay, and to all the other I say gentlemen drivers.
Well, to everyone.
Yeah, to everybody as well, because it's a really unique event, because you when you're there, if I'm talking to people who perhaps never been, but when you're there, it's not like a normal race meeting where you go, the racing is the sole focus, there's nothing else available, and then you leave. There is racing, happens to be all day on track, and that's just one of the many things that there are at this event. There's live music, there's concerts, there was scheduled to be, if it wasn't for the rain, there would have been some magnificent overhead displays from, I forgot which aeroplanes they are.
Some aeroplanes.
Some spectacular aeroplanes. You can tell I'm not an aeroplane person.
No, neither am I.
But the point is, it probably set the standards for, I would say, a lot bigger championships, and it does this year on year on year, and it keeps just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's now a 3-day event, and they really do struggle. The way that the turnaround time is on track, it's like in a club meeting way, in that literally as soon as one thing gets off the track, the next thing comes on. So it's literally on the Saturday, it was wall-to-wall racing. We had about in total about an hour and a half for lunch or something like that. But that's, I would guess, just to give the marshals a bit of a breather, because there was on-track action for 12 hours on the Saturday, and plus all the events throughout the paddock as well. Both paddocks were full with cars and racing, and lots of exhibitions and loads of stuff. I've never seen so many families at an event outside the actual Formula 1 British Grand Prix. which says a lot, and it's a huge testament to all the organisers and Silverstone and the team at Silverstone Classic. Yeah, so there we go. And I didn't even get paid to say that. So there you go. Genuinely, it was a thoroughly brilliant weekend. And one of the highlights, one of the biggest highlights, one of two biggest highlights, personally, for me, was watching the classic F1 cars out on track. I was so lucky enough to be on the start gantry for the start of the race. Oh my God. It was unbelievable. And I am genuinely humbled to... I totally understand that there are less than a dozen people who could probably ever do this. So for me to be in that position, I'm extremely grateful. It would be a total highlight of my life. And but yeah, there was quite significant crowds all around the track as well. Including the paddock, and there were big screens everywhere, and there was lots of, as you can probably hear now in the background, lots of epic on-track action with the Formula 1 cars. Dan actually goes through and does a sort of a mini grid walk, which we'll play that actually now, in fact, because it is pretty stunning, and the noise these things make. I don't think we realise it until you take the noise away, a bit like Formula E. It's probably most stark, probably more the biggest contrast of any motorsport. When you take the noise away, you notice how much noise there is, and I think you appreciate how much noise there was, or you appreciate the fact that when there are these cars here, for example, I was offered earplugs, something that is to be honest, it's very, very rarely needed in motorsport.
No, it's quite frequent. If you work closely, you need to wear earplugs. I can't stress how much that's important.
Well, as a spectator, it's quite rare, especially when you're club racing and stuff, to get to the sort of, especially with so many noise restrictions at certain tracks as well. But the point
long-term hearing damage isn't fun, kids. Don't do it. Always wear earplugs.
What? Huh. But yeah, no, the point being that these F1 cars were ear-splittingly loud, and I forgot to wear my... And I only realised this when it was too late. My ears were literally ringing. And
I had...
So...
So, yeah. I was going to say, I had a text message from Lester just as he came off the starting gantry saying, "My ears hurt, sad face."
Well, they did. I thought I'd burst an eardrum. It was that bad. But my own fault, motorsport is dangerous. Hashtag ow. So, yeah. Anyway, Dan Marr did a sort of a mini grid walk as well. The full length of which we might stick online on the Facebook stream, on the Facebook feed, the Facebook videos. You know what I mean. But anyway, here's a couple of select highlights from Dan Marr's grid walk just before the F1 cars thundered into action.
The grid is starting to assemble, and what an eclectic combination we've got here. 31 old Formula 1 cars with DFVs, all the brilliant stuff you can see there. Number 84, one of the former American mass cars. Here we see Nick Padmore's ex-Williams. That was number 6, he's now number 1, so it's always good when you get upgraded numbers, isn't it? You can see some more incredibly gorgeous cars. I mean, look at this, simple engineering, not much in the way of aerodynamics. And look, they've got a little bit of perspex on there, some modern F1. One of his older cars, number 13, that could be lots of great interesting things. A 1980, it's not quick. Are you starting the race then?
5th.
How are you in?
Lotus, a Williams 7C, which is the ex Alan Jones car here last year, but there seems to be some younger men who put the... I think I'm deemed to be the oldest pensioner here.
Well, I mean, Michael Lyons incredibly...
I do in the Group C, but I don't think I can in the Formula 1, but never say never.
Oh, good job. He's on Group C then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Cheers, mate. Best of luck, face. Thank you. So, Mike Wrigley there. You can see loads of stuff going on. Cars getting ready to go out. Nelson Piquet, you can hear Wonderful sound of Cosworth DFV. Quite a shame I didn't bring my earplugs actually, I was going to have a cracking headache. This number 4, the ex-Nelson PK car, Mark Hazel in his Williams. A load of ex-Williams cars around here, isn't there? Alan Jones is old Formula car as well. Stefan Beloff, what a talent he was in Formula 1 in Group C in that Porsche, the lap of the gods, some people call it. Now here is the March 7-2 watch, quite interesting, you see. It comes with a halo. This is what it might look like if we put a big mirror on the top of it. So March 721, tell us about the mirror.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So it's a advanced halo system, but no, it was back in 1972. The guy who designed this top bodywork, Kalani, the original body was so wide that they couldn't use conventional mirrors, so they came up with this put a periscope mirror, and then they left it on the car as sort of an iconic mark of his design. So he's a famous Italian designer who designed for this German team at the time, and a standard March 721.
It's an visibility on everyone's mind at the moment.
Out on the track, concentrating, it's not a problem at all, and you very rarely are you looking dead forward. You're nearly always looking to the left or the right, or picking up, the next corner or the car. So no, not an issue. But if you had a hoop around your head as well, I think I might find it a bit claustrophobic.
Well, it's going to be an interesting 31 of these Formula Grand Prix cars. It's going to be a bit of a challenge around the Silverstone circuit.
It is, and it's more of a challenge for me. I'm in something in the 1972, so it's a lot slower than a lot of these ground effects of the late 70s cars. So, but yeah. Fantastic. It's one of my favourite circuits, Silverstone, so yeah, really looking forward to it.
A fantastic meeting as well, the Classic.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yep. Yeah, I've raced here before in the F3 in 2014, but yeah, this is something else again.
Interesting combinations, loads of great stuff, and here we go. So, people are starting to get ready in going into the cars. We're just going to finish off, go through the grid. It's such a great depth we've got in this field of cars. We've got great depth in driver talents. We've got that wonderful Cosworth engine, a couple of other ones as well. We're going to be heading off, in fact, to go and see what happens. We'll let you know what happens in this first race, but this is the grid before the first race in the Masters Historic F1 here at the Silverstone Classic for 2017.
Thank you very much, Dan Marr reporting, and Dan Marr is back to tell us just how cool and amazing his weekend was, really, and his take for the Silverstone Classic as a whole.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, these guys, some people, when they go motor racing, when, as you can see, some of these a little bit older and more advanced in their life, successful business people wanting to go out and race the cars they saw as kids, as teenagers, grew up watching. It's just like my generation going and buying like a 2011 McLaren and racing that. It's what these guys are doing, and it's fantastic to see, the passion that goes into running these cars. It's just an incredible thing to see, but it's in all the categories you saw, from these Masters Historic F1 grids to the Formula Ford's massive capacity, 58 car grids in Formula Ford. Formula Junior, you've got Group C, 80 sports cars, 70s and 60s sports cars. You can really see the cars moving around, these drivers really thoroughly enjoying it. There was D-type racing here. I mean, how cool is that? It's just wonderful to see the passion. It's like with Lindsay, the guys from Australia and New Zealand, we spent 20 minutes talking to him just about the state of Australian motor racing, single-seater racing in Australia and in New Zealand. And it's great to see the depth that these guys go into and the love they've got for the sport, which I think is what combines everyone to the Silverstone Classic. And so much going on. There's 2 paddocks full of racing cars, and then you've got the car clubs, you've got the Ferris wheel, you've got all of the great stuff going on around the circuit. It's a fantastic thing to see, and this is why I love historic motor racing. It's the camaraderie and the support and the feeling you get from these cars. It's a very emotive thing, as you say. The sound of a racing car at flat chat is just so emotive. It's what really drives me. But then again, I like the sound of Formula E, so it balances out.
Yeah, so I mean, from all the events that were happening, and rather than sort of be general and say that everything was great, yada yada, which it was, because we've already said that. For you though, I think I already know the answer, but which of the races, of the cars, of the spectacles that were there at the weekend would you say was your ultimate favourite, or maybe even which particular car did you have a moment?
Oh, don't do this to me, because there's just far too many. My special thoughts, I think, really do have to go out to Sean Lynn's Jaguar XJR12 because I went to go and shoot on the Friday. Went to go to get some footage from Abbey, the inside of Abbey, and it was watching, the Sauber Mercedes C11 pile through, and then the Jaguar, the XJR12 with the gorgeous 7-litre V12 just come thundering past. It was just such an incredible feeling, and it just sort of really takes over all your senses. But then I went and watched on the exit up towards the loop the Super Tours, where they move from right to left, a lot of body roll and a lot of great movement, all sorts of historic racing cars. And I mean, there was some brilliant racing going on even in the Masters Historic Sports cars. You have bits of bodywork flying off. It was an interesting couple of bits, sort of wibbly wobbly headstand moment, I think is one of my friends would described it, because of just the bodywork flying, and you can feel like the loads are low in the T70s. It's this motorsport is, it's a big thing, and I think historic for me, the historic motorsport is my biggest passion as well as GT racing, and it's watching these old GT cars, just imagining what it would be like in period to race them, to watch them race, that real spirit of Le Mans, of Spa, of Brands Hatch, of all these wonderful race circuits, Daytona as well, happening. It's just, I can't really define one specific moment, but I think one thing, I think I can guess your moment. Is it anything to do with the Lola, not the Lola, but the Williams, the FW14B?
Maybe. It was a special highlight. I hadn't seen that many people all packed into the or to near the track to watch the track action. Other than the Masters Historic, the FIA Historic Formula One Championship. There was a couple of demo runs, and which were all too short, in my opinion, done by Nick Yellerly, who is a bit of a legend in my eyes. He's done all sorts of things, former Force India development driver or test driver sort of thing, and also a GP2 racer, GP3 racer, Renault 3. I don't think he did it. Did he? No, I think he did Renault 3.5. Anyways, Nick Yellerly, if you know him, you know him and what he's done and the success. And he was out in the Nigel Mansell Williams from, what year was that, Dan? 92, wasn't it?
92, the FW14B, the active, of course, it was the active aero car. It's utterly fantastic.
And this is me talking to Nick Yellerly literally seconds after he dived out of that beautiful machine at Silverstone for the 2017 Silverstone Classic, and we bumped into Nick Yellerly, who's just dived out of a beautiful classic Williams. How are you, and how was it?
Yeah, well, the heart rate's still quite high, but yeah, great fun. Unfortunately, we only got an out lap, one lap and in, so not as much as I think we should have had, but we've got tomorrow to make up for that. First impressions are amazing. It's just like a complete beast, particularly in second and third gear. Obviously still leaving quite a big margin, but it left a very, very good impression.
Was you hoping to push quite hard?
Yeah, I went out and got on with it relatively hard. I spoke to Johnny before and he said, yeah, just go and enjoy it. So that's what I did. And Silverstone's like my home, so I know the circuit very well and driven plenty of fast cars around here. So yeah, went and got on with it relatively quickly, and she felt good.
Is it the first time you've ever drove an F1 car like that? Tell us more about what you've been doing in similar machines.
Yeah, the only other one I've driven the six-wheeler as well. I drove that a couple of weeks ago at the F1 Grand Prix, just in the demo on the Sunday. But that's the first time I drove the Mansell car. I've wanted to drive that for years now. Being a Brummie myself, it's seemed very fitting.
And you're also still very much actively racing as well in the German Porsche Carrera Cup, and doing very well in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. We're lying second in the championship over there at the moment. Just came off the back of a win and a second place at Norris Ring, so got a little break now, so I can come and do things like this, and then we get back to action in mid-September.
And what about your career trajectory going forward? Because I'm sure we'd all love to see you back in racing in single-seaters. Is that going to be a possibility again for you?
A very small one, I think. I wouldn't mind jumping in one of those every now and then, but for me, my career is firmly set in sports cars and GTs, just because that's where I'm going to make a career, and a long career as well, I feel. So now I'm starting to impress in GTs. The offers are starting to come around, and just picking the right one as and when it comes.
Yeah, I'm sure whatever you would have been racing in you would have been impressing in it, but certainly, yeah, it would be good to see you doing doing more demo laps or something, maybe even perhaps even involving the Masters Historic Formula One. Perhaps is that something?
Yeah, I mean, I'll drive any historic Formula 1 cars. I think they're still the coolest things to drive. I think I love the old cars, even the H-pattern gearbox stuff. I think, you know, you really have to think about how you drive them and be very careful in some ways as well. And it's just the pure emotion of the thing. It's driving that beast, then going down the hangar straight, flat out, and, you know, in the limiter in 6th was, yeah, something I'll never forget.
How difficult really was it to concentrate and not be sort of screaming in your head, oh my god, I'm driving Nigel Mansell's car?
I left that for the pit lane. I just thought, don't make sure you don't do anything stupid, so took it relatively easy in the easy to go off places, and then gave it everything it had in the others.
Fantastic to see you with a huge smile on your face, and yeah, certainly the Silverstone Classic bringing out all the stars, including the Williams as well. So Nick, be great to see you racing in anything, to be honest. You're always good in anything that you race. Thank you for chatting to us again.
No problem. Nice to chat to you too.
Yeah, always been a fan of Nick Yellerley, as you could probably tell from that. But yeah, Nick Yellerley there, and wow, driving the that's kind of every young driver's dream, isn't it, Dan, to be driving that car around Silverstone. You don't even need to see it, to be honest, to believe it, because when you think of it, you've already got those classic images of Mansell driving around Silverstone from the period in your mind, those classic iconic images. Was it Senna was it that particular car that year when he won, I think? Was it Senna who sat on the top of it getting a lift back? I don't know if it was a different year, I can't remember.
Might have been a different year.
Well, anyway, those sorts of images. Anyway, yeah, for Nick Yellerley to be driving around that, albeit to do a couple of laps, was pretty special for him and special for us to watch and to witness that sort of thing.
It was incredible to hear.
Oh wow, yes, it was, certainly. Yeah, so that was my Dan Marr moment of the show. Yeah, but yeah, it was quite incredible to hear. I can't really put that into words, to be honest.
It was good. It was good. That's it.
Yeah, and that's really the sort of the thing that you can probably expect. Really, the big headline grabbers from the Silverstone Classic would be epic Formula One cars, brilliant racing, as well as not saying that any other racing is any less, but there's just so much on. Like the Super Touring and the Group C and another group racing, and classic Formula 4s. We'll be perhaps having a chat with Michael O'Brien as well, who won his first race in the Formula 50, celebrating 50 years of Formula Ford 1600. We had a chat with him just as he dived out of his car. And we Davey Brabham's still coming up on the show as well, blimey, because I think he's got some sort of newsworthy content to tell us about the Brabham project. Little teaser there for you. Dan, completely changing subject now from the Silverstone Classic. Well, sort of linking it, because the next person who we're interviewing has previously raced, I believe, at least once at the Silverstone Classic before his full racing career got underway. Kelvin Fletcher is coming up next on the show. Dan, did you know, have a guess, roughly how many months of a year you spend stuck in traffic?
We'll see. I get the train, so I don't spend that much, but months in a year, what, maybe
in your lifetime, the average commuter. I mean, we had a lot of traffic.
The average commuter, the many months, like 12 months.
It's
in their lifetime.
It's probably about that, yes. And that's kind of incredible. 12 full packed months.
You literally spend a year just sat in your car.
Yeah, doing nothing. And we you can
always be listening to Motorsport radio.
Motorsport.
That's a useful way of spending 12 months.
Exactly, yeah. Motorsport.radio is the place to while away your hours. Incidentally, by the way, you can actually do that because lots of people have the ability to play podcasts and such through their stereo, and you can download all our shows on the iTunes store or through our website, motorsport.radio. But anyway, back to the point that basically there's a lot of time spent stuck in traffic, as anybody who goes to big events has to sort of compromise with, basically, like getting out of the British Grand Prix every year, trying to do that in a car. They don't even let you into the circuit in a car, but trying to get out of the car parks and back onto the road and on your way home is a bit of a marathon in itself. And Kelvin Fletcher knows all about this, and he's advocating that you should get a bike to save many months of your life to do better things like, I don't know, attend more racing or watch Kelvin race more at British GT, or perhaps even on a bike. So there's a reason why Kelvin is advocating exactly why you should get a bike. Because the Kawasaki Rider Training Services are running a promotion at the moment where they are giving away a two-wheeled experience for novice riders like myself, completely novice riders, and like yourself as well, I presume, Dan.
Yes.
Who literally don't have their license and have never driven a bike at all before. But we'll gloss over that, being Motorsport Radio. Basically, if and it's kind of one of those things where, in my mind anyway, as a complete novice in bikes, albeit an open-minded one, because there's such a huge, passionate tribe of bike enthusiasts, I think that kind of culture is a little hard to get into when you're coming from a bike world and you've grew up watching Formula One and that side of motorsport. So for Kawasaki to be offering people the chance to jump on a bike, an automatic bike, I didn't even know they existed until the two-wheeled experience with Kawasaki came along. But anyway, that's kind of what it's all about. It's just it is a wonderful taster of how to get your first experience on a bike, and Kelvin Fletcher is advocating such a thing because he loves bikes as well as cars, as well as touring cars, as well as GT cars, and super bikes as well, and also Kawasaki. I caught up with him a couple of days ago, and here he is chatting with me and telling us basically exactly why we can save months of our lives and some such. Well, here to talk about how we can exactly save many months of our lives instead of being stuck in traffic like I was this morning. Please welcome GT racing driver, bike racer and actor Kelvin Fletcher. Hi, Kelvin.
Hello, Lester.
So, how are you? What are we doing here? Why are we talking about traffic and saving many months and talking about bikes and stuff?
Well, this seems very apt because you were just saying there, you alluded to that you've actually just been stuck in traffic, so you've had quite a stressful journey in getting to the studio today.
Yeah, I have. Well, we all have, I suppose. We all get stuck in traffic, and we apparently lose many, many months of our lives just sitting and doing nothing, stuck in traffic.
I think it's 9 months of, is what you lose over a lifetime of being stuck in traffic, so that is an awful long time. I don't know how they've come up with those statistics, but they're clearly true because it's written down in front of me. But no, it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of time, and to think back and think of all the opportunities you've missed, all the meetings you've been late for, all the time you've been late for work, and you got in trouble off your superiors and whatnot. So there's nothing worse than being stuck in traffic, seeing the clock ticking, knowing that you're just losing time and you're not gaining any ground. And there's a stress factor. There's an element of, I get in a hot sweat and I just feel absolutely terrible. And then you've kind of expected to go on and do a full day's work after that, or meeting people or whatever it might be, whatever your scenario is. So there's nothing worse being stressed out in traffic. So it's one thing I ate and one thing I'd certainly saw every single day. I think pretty much driving from Manchester to Leeds on my daily commute over to Emmerdale, and the M62 was an absolute nightmare, probably similar to the M1, M6, M25. These places are just like huge. They are the biggest car parks in Europe. It's it's mind-boggling to think that, you know, all these years we've been developing highways and road systems and whatnot, and we still haven't quite tackled the traffic problem. So I prefer to take it into my own hands and think, well, if they can't do anything about it, then I'm going to have to ditch my car, get on two wheels, and be one of those people that kind of zap through the traffic and look like they're in it with a big smile on their face.
Yeah, I am often jealous of those people who have been stuck in traffic for at least 10 minutes, and I see, I guess it might have been you who comes zapping past me on my way to a racing circuit while I've been sort of stuck in traffic on my way there. It's interesting. I often think it's actually that, to be honest, that I think might save me and many other millions of people a lot of time by jumping on a bike and beating the traffic and doing other better things.
Certainly,
I'm presuming I've got other better things to do, but yeah, that's the
Definitely.
general consensus.
I don't think there's a more convenient way to travel than on two wheels. You know, certainly for me anyway. From the people I speak to and whatnot, you know, just regards to parking, you know, there's a cost as well in your pocket. You know, the fuel prices, as you probably know, and can fluctuate so much, but they always seem to be on the up. And I don't know what you get on an average good car, maybe 40, 50 miles per gallon if you're lucky. Whereas, you know, bikes, you could be getting 70, 80, 90, 100 plus, you know. So as an economic factor, I think it's still obviously a lot more beneficial on two wheels than it is on four.
Now, you, Kelvin, are, of course, no stranger to racing, of course. Racing this year in the British GT Championship and doing fairly well, I must say. And people listening and watching might know as well that you've been racing previously in the mini championships in the UK and also the BTCC, most famously, recently as well. And with the... You're also no stranger to jumping on powerful bikes as well, aren't you? I mean, it has to be asked as well, Calvin, since we are talking on Motorsport Radio, are you having any serious thoughts about racing bikes at top level, perhaps?
I don't know about top level, but I'm seriously considering, and it's definitely on the agenda to race a bike, maybe some point this year. Similar where I started out with racing cars, you know, it was something that I thought I'll give it a go, see what happens, you know. And then 4 years later, I was racing the British touring cars. So, you know, whatever critics I might have out there, which I'm sure there's quite a few, mostly people who don't think nothing about racing. But yeah, I don't think there was anybody else on that grid of 32 drivers that had racing British touring cars 4 years after they passed their ARDS test, having no go-karting experience, absolutely nothing previously, just other than being a huge motorsport fan and only ever being at circuits as a spectator, not as a competitor. So I was immensely proud of my achievements and how I'd kind of come to that, what started out as a bit of a hobby and something I wanted to kind of, you know, give it a go. I suddenly found myself, you know, with the grid along the likes of, you know, Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden, Jason Plato, Colin Turgerton, these, you know, immensely talented people, and I was kind of sharing the grid with them, and quite often, you know, within a second of them anyway. So I was very proud of that, and as you know full well, it's very competitive as the BTCC. So if you're qualifying just, you know, a second or so off pace, then you 20th, 25th, you know, so you're quite far down the pack. So it's very, very competitive, but that's what makes it such exciting racing. So I'm now racing the British GT this year, which has been great. It's an endurance race, so it's a little bit different. The racing is a little bit more relaxed, if you'd like. I guess there's not as many. Well, I've not had one DNF this year so far, over 6 rounds, I think. I think I had 11 in my BTCC year. I think one genuinely was my own fault. Which is the worst part of the British touring car. There's too much contact for me. And unfortunately, the attacking driver is given all the credit as opposed to the defending driver. You know, it's just as hard and it's just as demands just as much to defend a quicker driver behind you if he's on better tyres, but, you know, better weight distribution, whatever it might be, whatever reason that he's slightly quicker for you to defend even behind you, you know, is merit in itself, and that's so unfortunate. I don't think that's always seen in certain championships where, you know, the onus is on for the attacking driver to attack and to put a move or to certainly, you know, have a little bit of contact to make that space, and then it's great, whereas I don't really agree with that. So it's been great in the British GT this year, but yeah, certainly it's given me appetite to again put myself out of my comfort zone, try something new. I've always been a big, huge bike fan. I've always ridden bikes, motocross bikes, and certainly on the odd track day. And I've thought, you know, I might do all right at this, I might not, but I'd rather be one of those people that give it a go rather than, you know, that have never known. So I'd rather give it a go, be at the back of the grid, and at least, if you know, well, at least he had the courage and I guess the BALS to give it a go and get out there in the paddock. So that's what I'm looking forward to anyway. So if I can do that, then it'll be obviously with Kawasaki, and I could do something with them. So that would be great. I'm not going to say for 1 minute that I could ever echo the steps of Leon Haslam and the other Kawasaki riders, because in their own right they're immensely talented and unbelievable athletes. So just to kind of get an ounce of that feeling of just going into, for instance, things like that is just the adrenaline and the thrill. I think is very unique. And of all the cars I've drove, I've never quite had the feeling of what I get when I'm on a bike. I think there's something unique about where you are, the old cliche, race being in here. You just feel like it's your machine on the road, and there's an element of freedom there, and there's something that's just, it's not like it's a chore. Sometimes you get in your car for a commute or wherever it might be, and it feels like, can't wait for the journey to end. Whereas when you're on a bike, it just feels like you could, if there's a 10-mile diversion, with roadworks, you'd happily take that and go on the more scenic route, I guess. So for me, there is something unique about a bike, and I want to kind of tick all the boxes. So first and foremost, I want to do the KRTS scheme, should I say, and get my bike license, because although I can ride bikes, I'm not officially registered, I guess. I've not got a bike license in the UK. So first and foremost, I want to get that, and then I want to get out and do the odd race and that. So I guess watch this space.
Well, I certainly, for one anyway, going back to what you said earlier, don't think that you will be at the back of the grid if and when you do decide to compete in a proper championship. I was trying to choose my words carefully there, but there's certain something. I think you were selling it very well to me, Calvin. I think actually, I've never really been overly passionate about wanting to jump on a bike, mostly because of the safety aspect of it. I just presume that I'm just the sort of person who's going to instantly just do something foolish and have an accident, which is probably the case. But does it take a certain type of person to ride a bike out or race like you as well?
Yeah, you touched on there about the safety aspect, and for me I was the same, and I think my parents always said to me, Kelvin, a bike's safe. Whereas for me, when you're in a car, there's that many distractions, whether it be the radio or whatever it might be. And I think that sense of security where you've got the four pillars around you and you very much feel like you've got this, this security around you. I just don't think you get that on a bike. I think if anything, you know how vulnerable you are on a bike. You suddenly know that the danger is a little bit more immediate and a little bit more visual. I think for them, subconsciously, what you do, you switch on a little bit more and you're a little bit more focused. So if anything, I think I'm a safer driver, a safer rider when I'm on two wheels, because I'm taking things a little bit more seriously, because I know that I'm at somewhat elevated position where I'm going to be slightly, more inclined to be at the face of hazards, really. So I certainly think I'm a more safer person when I'm on two wheels than I am on four wheels and that. But for people who do like bikes and do ride bikes, it's all different spectrums of life, from male, female, old or young, different jobs, and for me, different reasons as to why they ride. They can ride at the weekends on the classic bike as purely just as an escapism, just to get out there and have a real enjoyable afternoon on a bike. On a sports bike doing 100 miles an hour, it could be doing 30 miles an hour on a classic bike or anything like that, or even on a sports bike, just kind of feeling and being out there on the road. And then there's people who use it purely as a convenience factor, just to be their daily commute, and getting around on a bike is so much easier, especially in places like London where they can park pretty much anywhere. It's a lot more economical to run the bike. So there's many reasons and many different sorts of people that choose to be on two wheels as opposed to four wheels. So it's something certainly worth considering. And if you do, then obviously the one-stop shop, the old Kawasaki Rider Training Services, KRTS, is where I'll be doing my test. So you need to maybe follow suit and get your license.
Indeed, yeah, we will certainly look into that. Kelvin, thank you very much for joining us on Motorsport Radio today. We'll catch up with you again at the next round in your racing championship, car racing, at Brands Hatch to see what happens, and maybe we'll even see you on a bike racing around Brands one day. Who knows?
Certainly, I'm looking forward to the British GT. Yeah, I'll see you there on the I think 8th and 9th of August.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Kelvin Fletcher, star of Emmerdale and British Touring Car Championship and the Mighty Minis Championship previously, and now currently the British GT Championship, racing this weekend at Brands Hatch, and we'll be reporting on his weekend next weekend on next week's Monday Motorsport. But very much advocating the merits of saving time and being a bit smug in traffic on a bike. More specifically, on a Kawasaki, because he is, like I said earlier, very much advocating the two-wheeled experience and the overall Kawasaki rider training service that they have running at the moment. And to celebrate such a thing, we have a competition for you where we're giving away a two-wheeled experience on the Kawasaki KRTS scheme, and the two-wheeled experience is, let me tell you, it's worth £49 for a start. So why not? Come and have a go, basically. It's designed for the complete novice. As I said earlier, it's designed for basically people like me to literally dip their toes into the bike world, get their feel for bikes, without it being a big, massive, scary experience, without having to have the commitment of buying a bike or getting on anything extremely powerful, or even having like loads of people watching at a race event, for example. The two-wheeled experience will definitely leave you wanting more. You'll spend around 90 minutes on the accredited training school in a very safe off-road environment and at a pace to suit you. Remember, it's for people like me who have never been on anything more powerful than a push bike or a go-kart, basically. You'll be kitted out with all the safety equipment that you need and introduced to an automatic motorcycle, and you'll be shown how to accelerate all the basics, really, which, don't laugh, because if I was doing this, and I might, it's something that I'd probably want to do. It literally is the first taster of a bike that you could it's probably the best taste of getting on a bike that you could probably ever have. It's in a completely safe environment with all the expertise around you that you'd need, and you'd be obviously made to feel confident with the trained instructor, and you'll also have the chance to get out on a geared bike as well, and you'll be shown about balance, throttle, and clutch, and gear changing, and you can ask your instructor how to get a CBT, the license. There'll be everything explained to you, and you can just walk away with a massive grin on your face, or you can also go up to the next stage and actually get your CBT, your bike license, which isn't included in our free competition for the two-wheeled experience only. But we'll put a link on our website. learntoride.with Kawasaki.co.uk is the place to go to learn more about it. But our competition and how you can win a two-wheeled experience with the Kawasaki Rider Training Services, which was heartily endorsed by TV's own Kelvin Fletcher. All you have to do is answer the following question: who are the riders racing in BSB with JG Speedfit Kawasaki? There are two names currently in the 27 season. I want to know. If you think you know and would like, or perhaps if you know, this is probably a fantastic prize for a friend or a family member who you know, because I'm guessing that you are a bit of a petrol head and enthusiast, and or already have your bike license, so won't necessarily need this, but it is a fantastic present for someone else. The only terms and conditions is that you must be over 17. The prize is for one two-wheeled experience, not associated costs outside of this. The prize must be redeemed by the end of 2017, by the 31st of December 2017, and it can be booked. You can book your course up to and including the 30th of September 2018 as well. So the main question and how to enter we'll get to in a moment. But the question once again is, who are the two riders racing in BSB this season in 2017 for JG Speedfit Kawasaki? Very easy question. You should know this, or you should be able to Google it. All right, competition closes on Saturday, the 5th of August, so end of this week at 12 midday. And like I say, terms and conditions, you must be 17 or over. The prize is for one two-wheeled experience to the value of £49 and no associated costs. Basically, so the cost of actually going to the experience, you'd have to pay for yourself. But still, it's a fantastic experience and a fantastic thing. How to enter? Well, we'll put a link all over our website on motorsport.radio with a form that you can basically answer that question with, and we'll put a link to that on our Facebook and Twitter and all over the Motorsport media network at before midnight tonight if you're watching live, or if it's any time after Monday, it should already be on there. So it sounds like a fantastic scheme, and to be honest, I'm a bit tempted to sort of dip my toe into this as well. Kiko Alexander-Giles, bike expert, resident bike expert of Motorsport Radio, joins us. Kiko, hello and welcome.
Oh, it's good to be back. You know, I've had such a busy last 4 or 5 weeks, you know, with flying around the world and whatever. But now it's great to be back in lovely sunny Britain and talking to you guys.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, by the way, we have said goodbye to Dan Ma. He's gone for a Chinese, and Kiko Alexander's just finished a Chinese.
Yeah,
he has, and he's taken Dan's spot on the show. So thank you for joining us.
I don't think it'll be the same Chinese, though. I think, you know, there's a little bit of a gap between our respective Chineses, but, you know, all the same. How much difference can a chow mein be between one and another?
Maybe he's having a chow. That's easy for me to say, but yeah, maybe. Anyway, but yeah, Kiko has been off globetrotting to Lebanon.
That's right, you know, Leicester.
Over the past few weeks. You can ask him yourself why. I don't even get involved anymore, to be honest. But he's going to Iraq next, followed by Afghanistan, and followed by Beirut, and all the war zones. He's going to be a war correspondent, I'm sure.
Well, I'm open to report on a bit of a war this weekend at Thruxton, actually, because the British Superbikes are back at the fastest circuit they go to in the country, and recent form says Shaky Burns won 4 races from the last 4 races themselves. He hasn't lost one in the last couple of rounds, but we seem to forget, before he went off on World Superbike duty, Josh Brooks had won 4 on the bounce at that Thruxton circuit as well. So actually, we could see a bit of the old Burnham Brooks rivalry reignited here come Sunday afternoon down in what is more or less France. I must admit, I'm going to have to see if I can get Thruxton? Thruxton is more or less France, I'm telling you.
I don't think it is, although I've never been to Thruxton. No, I've recently driven through France, and you have to at least cross some sort of water.
Well, does the Trent count?
Okay. Fair enough.
No, we haven't. It is France. It is, honestly. It's so far south. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to Knockhill, it's like going to Iceland for a weekend.
For those down south near Thruxton, I suppose, yeah, that probably is.
Well, for those down south near Thruxton, they talk fluent French, don't they? They ain't got a problem.
And anyway, moving on.
Burnham Brooks, they were on for a belting battle in race 2 at Brands Hatch when I was away. But unfortunately, Josh Brooks chucked it up the street going down into Surtees. Going down quite literally, unfortunately, for the Australian. And that gave Shane Burney another win, which I'm not sure would have come had Josh Brooks stayed on. I've got to say, I felt a bit of the first win of the season coming for Josh Brooks, the first win of their BSB careers coming for the Anvil team. And it's a very big shame that has been put off. But do you know what? Coming into Thruxton this weekend, nothing would surprise me if Josh could go for his first win of the year. However, I must say, now he is in the showdown already, so top 4s, top 5s will secure his place. So British Superbikes is rife at the moment. There's all sorts of battles. It was put to my attention by one Tony Morris, I don't know if he's listening to this or not, that Bradley Ray has really started coming good. The old Cool Fab racer, of course, you know a lot about that. We know a lot about that. He is, without doubt, one of the best shining stars in British Superbikes. We have a ray of light, if you excuse the pun. But he's top Suzuki. He's ahead of the factory boys, his teammate, supposedly, the so-called better lads. He's no longer the other Suzuki, which people have been calling him for the whole of this year. He is top Suzuki. He's only a few points behind Tommy Bridle, who I must remind you was third in the series a few years ago. So keep your eyes on Bradley Ray. He was second behind speedy Andy Reedy down at Thruxton last year. So Bradley Ray knows his way around here, albeit on a 600 bike last year. But expect another strong showing from the lad down in Kent. Of course, that's more or less France as well. So, it's a more or less a local round for him, if you excuse Brands Hatch. Just in Kent, but no, Thruxton, not a long way from to come, and he's on confidence as well. If you haven't seen the article that I wrote about him, check it out on my Facebook, check it out on his Facebook, my Twitter, his Twitter. Putka Online is all over the place. Really gone down well.
Yeah, certainly the Milky Bar Kid, as he's affectionately known. And if you've not seen him, if you have seen him, you'll understand why, because he looks like the Milky Bar Kid. But yeah, Brad Ray, a person who we have known about for a couple of years now, and was recently racing at the most recent round of the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, racing on a pit bike, and he assures me he is going out on a mini F1 sidecar at the next round. I will try and record that for you, but if he does come back, because obviously he's connected with the Keys family. They run brilliantly the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and
it's funny you mentioned the Keys family there. I'm sorry to jump in on you, Lester. I just hijacked your little report there.
It's all right.
But Roger Keys himself, fielded Joe Collier at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
Moto 2.
The British Super Bikes. Fantastic. Fourth, I think he was. Okay, he can't score points or whatever, and he's excluded from the results as far as points and whatever goes. But for his first ride out, let's not forget, on a Moto 2 bike, Joe Collier was in tricky conditions, but he still had to stay on. Brilliant stuff from him, and brilliant stuff from Roger Keys, who's put a bike out there, which I knew about personally for a long time. He wanted to get it out at Snetterton with another rider, which I won't name. But no, it's definitely a brilliant ride out, and I think Joe Collier crashed out in the second race, but he would have finished in what Roger says is between 8th and 12th. So sorry to hijack you there, Lester, but yeah, worth mentioning. Roger Keys, lots of fingers in lots of pies.
Yeah, certainly, and there are other names floating about. I did have a chat recently with Roger, and I failed to ask. Usually, because I've usually got like half of my journalist cap on, just to see if I can gain any information from people. It's always worth asking. You never know, because some people, you don't know what some people, you just don't know until you ask, basically. And that's what being a journalist is, I'm told. But yeah, anyway, Roger tells me that Joe is on the bike for. I don't know if he's on for the rest of the season. I would presume so.
I think he's here for Thruxton.
Yeah, but I mean, there are other names floating around.
I know Roger's there for Thruxton. I spoke to Roger myself, and I know he's there for Thruxton. Don't know whether Joe's on it. I know Joey's going to be there because, of course, he's in the Ducati Tri-Options Cup and dominating that. So, I'm sure Joe will be there, whether or not it's on Roger Keys' bike. I'm pretty sure it will be, but, we won't confirm that until we know.
I wanted to ask you about some of the, because I know you have some opinions on some of these, what would you call them? The, I forgot the word for them, like the invitational bikes. The
kind of on the side bits of work.
And the Moto 2 bikes sort of kind of stealing the show a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's not just me who thinks that anymore. I spoke to Keith Farmer, the Yamaha McAdams rider in the British Supersport, and he said it is unfair that, someone like Alistair Seeley, and he said that he's friends with Alistair Seeley. The interview is coming out exclusively, hopefully within the next couple of days. He did say that it's unfair. But, again, it's difficult. Keith Farmer offered the solution to put them at the back of the grid for the superbike race, which I, at the time, thought, that's not a bad idea. But then you've got the problem of superbike riders complaining about them being in the way and lapping riders. But you lap riders anyway, I personally believe.
If you're good enough, you'll get round them.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get round the back markers at the normal superbike race. So to stick them the back of the grid for a superbike race, the Moto 2s, that is, I don't see why that would be such a bad idea. But, again, it's a difficult one for Stuart Higgs to call, and Stuart Higgs will listen to all the riders in that paddock. He will listen to everyone or the team owners or the team managers or the mechanics and listen to everyone's views. And he'll take them all into consideration. He'll work out what's best for everyone. And at the moment, the Moto2s it has worked as a difficulty for some riders. Joe Francis, namely, Martin Halsall took to Twitter about that one back at Snetterton. But other riders, they're less opinionated, because the problem with British Supersport now is the Supersport class is supposedly dying, although I'm not of that view. So Moto2s are having to be phased in, which is why we're seeing Joe Collier being put on a Moto2 bike. That's why we're seeing Alistair Seeley on one. It's the future, and to phase it in, to get a bit of testing time done, is essential for some teams if they want to know what they're running next year, etc., etc.
Is there going to be a full Moto2 class on the BSB support?
I don't know. I mean, if I knew, well, I don't know. I'd hope not. If I was to say yes, it'd have to be in a separate class altogether. It couldn't have. I'm not a fan of these mini races in one race. You've got the Motorstars, the Moto3 in the Motorstar category in with the 125s. But the problem is, and there's many reasons for this, but my issue is that you could have a race that is just as good for 125s for the lead of their class, but it's not televised because they're not leading on the road, or it's not shown as much on the television because they're not leading on the road. And I don't think that's fair. These guys are only young, they're scraping to get to each round. The sponsors, want some television time, and when that's not being given or whatever, there's a difficulty. So I'd just rather have separate races. But again, British Superbikes is packed out as it is already. So, you've got to work that one out. Swingers and roundabouts all over the place, really. And it's a very difficult one again for Stuart Ixtical, because you've got to then you've got to try and fit 10 or 11 classes in. A race here, free practices as well, separate free practices. There's not enough time in the week. You'd have to be have 1 or 2 races on a Friday night and, start practicing on a Thursday. But again, the more time you're at a circuit, the more time you have to have off work, the more money it's going to cost anyway, because you have to stay there maybe for an extra night, depending on how they work out the schedule. The smaller teams will not want to be stretched over 4 days. I'm fairly sure of that.
Yeah, it certainly costs a lot too. I think it's underappreciated, just the costs for some of the smaller teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's underappreciated what some of the British Superbike riders earn, in all fairness, because you got your top ones that are on top money. There's some riders paying for their rides, or their sponsors are paying for their rides. They're not on a wage all the time, and I'm not going to name those riders. There's privateers who are what they are, and they'll enter at their own cost and whatever. But that IB rider out there is being paid, not as a proper wage. I might get their bonuses or whatever, but not everyone's on a massive wage. This is no Formula One kind of thing, although some would argue again, not everyone in Formula One's being paid properly, but we'll leave that aside.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Well, it was good to sort of ask about the Moto2 anyway, and get your thoughts on it. I noticed that the British Talent Cup is, causing some ruffling a few feathers, or certainly making a few waves anyway. And they're going through a process of recruiting or scouting for. Well, you tell us, Kiko, what's going on with that?
Yeah, the British Talent Cup is basically, I think it's up to the age of 15. I'm not sure, I can't remember, is it 17 or something like that anyway, the picket side. It's basically getting young people in motorcycle racing in Britain, and, it's all free, so the parents aren't having to remortgage their houses or skint themselves, do extra hours at work, whatever, to fund their sons or daughters' motorcycling careers. This is all free, provided by Dorna, who own MotoGP, or have the rights to MotoGP, and World Superbikes likewise. So this is a great opportunity. My big concern is, well, not a big concern, but one of the concerns is that, it's kind of pushing away from the British Superbike paddock and the Cool Fab series and blah, 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 and trying to push towards this prototype stuff. However, some people may say, like Steve Parrish has said, if you can ride a motorcycle, you can ride a motorcycle. You can jump from one series to another, and it's been done before. Nicky Hayden, the late great Nicky Hayden, did it very successfully. Alex Barros has done it before, and Johnny Ray had a little trial at it as well. So I don't think it's not a major concern. It might do a little bit of damage to the British series, But one of the other problems is, and talking to Ryan Vickers about this back at Knock Hill, is that it actually excludes the 18 to 20-year-olds. Now, this has been done to try and generate more British talent, but as far as I'm concerned, there's a big bunch between 17 to 20 that actually have talent already. So surely why can't they enter? Because you don't have to be ridiculously young. You don't have to be a Marc Marquez to become the next Marc Marquez. You can be 24, 25 and still start coming up through the classes. It's not all over it just because you're not in the Grand Prix paddock by 20. I'm not of that opinion at all. So I feel that it leaves riders out quite a lot if you're on the wrong side of the age limit. It is a cup, but I don't think it should just focus on the younger ages, because maybe it's too much too soon for some riders. We don't know.
Well, I suppose that if to sort of counterbalance some of the obvious worries from other championships, as you've pointed out, in that saying, well, are these guys coming in?
The appeal of British Superbikes is the riders like Josh Brooks, Shane Byrne, Leon Haslam, Luke Mossey, the youngsters as well coming through, like Bradley Ray, for example. So I don't think it will cause too much concern, but it may affect the smaller categories. And British Superbikes has done it before. It's found a way to replace them. It's found a way to make new categories. Of course, in 2007, I think it was, they formed a new Stock 600 class, or in 2008 they formed a new Stock 600 class out of the National Super Stock headline of 2007, where it was 1,000 and 600s all in one. So, or thousands and cup runners all in one. So, they've formed classes before, they've got rid of classes before. It is just a natural cycle, I think, and it's great that we are finally doing something. You hear too many stories of riders giving it their all, parents giving it their all, and then they're still not at the Grand Prix level. That's just to do with like 4 races in British Supersport. So you've got to wonder. It's not a bad thing just because it's free. That is a massive help for some riders. But don't forget, British Superbikes has their very own KTM Consumer Finance Santander Cup on their 360 KTM. So there is loads of different ways, and I like that. This British Talent Cup, I think, instead of being a distraction, like some people have said, is more of just another option more than anything, because there's loads of routes into motorcycle racing in the UK now. Some go abroad and go to Spain for it, but it's still loads here.
Yeah, and if anything at all, whatever side of the fence you're on, if you're worried about certain championships, or if you're part of other championships, the entire bike community can all, I suppose, come to some agreement in that the British motorcycle scene, community as such, has probably never been healthier, bigger, or stronger, or had a better outlook at any point that I can remember.
No, I mean, you've had it for a few years there with World Superbikes having 7 or 8 Brits in, but, he's looking really promising. And I must just correct myself there. The Motor Star class is standard 250, so it's not the 125s. They phased them out totally. The 125s aren't there anymore. It is now the standard 250s, just to correct myself on that. So, but it comes back to the same area of what I'm arguing, is it's just still 2 separate races. But like you say, British motorsport on a whole, I don't think has been much healthier. The British Touring Car Championships pulling in loads and record-breaking figures trackside. You've got Formula 1, obviously Lewis Hamilton's doing well there. You've got World Superbikes, you've got 3 of the top 4 riders are British, 3 of them first, second and third. MotoGP, Cal Crutchlow, Scott Redding, getting good results now, starting to come through. Cal Crutchlow, of course, winning 2 races last year, on a podium already this year. British Superbikes, no longer these traditional riders coming back into the series because they've not done well at World Superbikes or MotoGP or whatever. You've got real talent now coming through, with Luke Mossey, for example, winning races. Jake Dixon's sensational double victory at Knock Hill, which was not on the cards as far as I was concerned. You've got Bradley Ray. You've got Sean Winfield. Now, everyone forgets about Sean Winfield. He's still very young. He's not a slow rider just because he's at the back of the field. I reckon that wherever Sean Winfield comes this weekend in qualifying, probably would have put him on the first 2 rows, but last year, it's the pace. He's improving, but so's everyone else. It's very important we don't forget the riders at the back as well. You know, there's loads of good young talent. There's loads of old talent that's still there. You know, you can't name them all, but it is coming. Taylor Mackenzie's another one. You know, he's a very quick rider, and it is going to come for him, I'm sure. But, you know, that's what I'm saying. British Superbikes has got such a capacity now for young riders, and even in Supersport, you know, even down in the Stock Thousands, even in the Ducati Tri-Options Cup, like Joe Collier, still so young, he is going to come through. And hopefully we're going to have a raft of British riders, and not just British riders, because it's in the British Superbike class does not mean that it's only British riders coming through. There are loads of nationalities coming through. So you've got Bjorn Esmond, the South African rider, in British Supersport. You know, he's getting top 10 results, and he's starting to move forward now. He got a 5th place and an 8th place at Brands Hatch in points. So it's not all over yet for some riders. And yeah, Bjorn's one of the older people. They have the load I've just mentioned there in the last couple of minutes, but he's still young, and he's still got a future ahead of him, at least 10 years, I'm sure. So, you know, it's not just the British talent, it's also the international talent oozing out of here. James Raspoli's another one. Billy McConnell, he's getting on. But he's still there. He's still there or thereabouts, as is Josh Brooks. Josh Brooks is, I think, in his 30s now, believe it or not. Doesn't seem like yesterday he joined us from HM Plant Honda into HM Plant Honda, I must say, in 2009. But they're all still there, and it's the international flavour now of British Superbikes, and I love it. I can't remember it was so good. The last time I can remember so many nationalities making it so international was back in, it's got to be 2005, when Kianari and Gregorio Lavia were the two I don't know, Japanese and their national series. They left their national series to come here. A couple of refugees for you there, and you know it's brilliant just to get this talent, because if you can't, British Superbikes, and this is what I must say, Brent Gladwin told me this, British Superbikes is known as a career killer. You know, if you can't win here, if you've left the Aussie Superbike Championship and you've come to British Superbikes, you've won the Aussie Superbikes before, and you come in, you're 18th, you know, that is like you're off the radar. It's doing it to Sylvain Gintoni now, I believe. That's my opinion. Former World Superbike Championship winner, completely lost in BSB. Whether that's through him or through the bike, that's left to be shown. But it doesn't get away from the fact, talking to get away that fly, doesn't get away from the fact, you know, he's a bit lost, and some people would say World Superbikes should come here, get top 5s and top 6s. Already happened with Davide Giuliano. You know, he come here, not done particularly well, and there's a bit left without a ride. He's going to go and test for Red Bull Honda over in World Superbikes again, but British Superbikes is one of the elite classes now, and I believe that if you can do it here in Britain, you can do it in the World Superbike Series. It wouldn't surprise me if Shane Byrne did the wild card next year at Donington Park, got top 6, top 5, you know, because it is that level now. There is no World Superbikes here and BSB there. They are so close now. It's only
regulation. More by design, though, that affects that design by Dorna, if nothing else. Not to take any you know, the amazing work that Stuart Higgs has done, of course, but like you say, with the going up to, well, what was traditionally seen to move up to the world's superbikes, isn't that much of a huge step anymore in terms of the lure of actually going onto the stage? Because, you know,
I don't think World Superbikes is as an attractive a choice as what it was, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
you know, when you had the likes of Troy Bayliss in the championship and James Toseland and Ruben Zeus and Max Biaggi, that was an attractive series for me. Now you're just getting loads of people who have come off the BSB production line, and it's getting a little bit boring. You know, it is getting a little bit boring. That's not bad for us Brits, but what I'm saying is, you know, why would you want to go to somewhere where no rider, in my opinion, has proven himself at MotoGP level? Marco Melandri with the exception, but he's not a regular front runner. You know, there's no excitement, I don't believe, in watching people that have been in a championship for years, you know, and that have just dominated and just it's been the same 3 or 4 each year. Especially when they haven't been in MotoGP. I just don't believe that, you know, when it was in the 1990s, you had Carl Foggy, John Kaczynski, Troy Corser, when all the other national series were strong, so Ben Bostrom, Troy Bayliss, you had all these massive names and everyone wanted to be there. Colin Edwards, Nori Haga, Akira Yanagawa, Doug Chandler, if we're going to go a few years before that. Now, I don't see why anyone would want to go to World Superbikes from BSB anyway. You know, okay, money might be a take of it. A lot of people now just want to get off to Grand Prix, don't they? Surely. That's what I've just thought. It's great for the Grand Prix guys who are retiring and wanting to come back and win a few races at world level like Marco Melandri's doing now. But I don't see why British Superbikes on a whole, as riders, unless you are very young, you know, you got your Bradley Ray maybe, who will want to have a year in World Superbikes. But, you know, I just personally don't see what the big attraction would be to World Superbikes. You see, Dorna have almost manufactured it to be the second series, so surely that's already saying to a rider, why would you want to go get stuck in a series before you've even reached the top? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I suppose it could be an attractive proposition, not for the riders at the front of the BSB who were, you know, regularly winning and getting podiums and stuff, but I can probably see, if at all, they even have a chance of going to the Worlds. But some people in the mid-pack of BSB are at the back of the grid, but there again, how likely would they be to even have that opportunity in the first place to go to World Superbikes, that sort of thing. So it's it's an interesting one, and it's all. Yeah, certainly. You mentioned about MotoGP briefly, and I want to touch on that because this weekend it is the next round of the MotoGP Championship at Brno.
Yes,
and it's and I've just had a quick browse of the old standings, and really interesting to see if like me, you haven't been paying that much attention to the points standings. So I'm guilty of that. But yeah, only 5 points in it now, Marc Marquez. Not that many, to be honest. Vinales in second.
I think 10 points covers the top four, and Valentino Rossi's fourth, and third is Andrea Dovizioso.
So quite literally all to play for. What's going to happen this weekend, Kiko?
A Ducati win, that's for sure. I don't see how the Ducati would win. It's never won at Brno before. Not in recent years anyway. So I'll disregard. They in dry. We got to stress it's in dry. It's only ever been wet once. So, you know, and that was last year. For me, you're looking at Yamahas, and you might be looking at Marquez, but I think you're mainly looking at Maverick Vinales, Valentino Rossi. I don't think it's clear cut at all. You know, you might get a couple of duff qualifying sessions, you know, and got an upside down grid, but you know, I think normal service will be resumed when we come back to Brno, and I think Valentino Rossi and Maverick Vinales, maybe Marquez, maybe he can make it work. Hasn't won there, of course, since 2014, and that year since 2013. In fact, has he ever won? I'm not sure if he has ever won, because he definitely didn't win in 14. No, I said that. No, I'm not sure now.
To Wikipedia.
Sorry?
To Wikipedia, we'll find out.
Oh, no, I never use that. I'm not sure. I don't think he did win in 2013. I'm not sure anyway. But Marquez will be there or thereabouts. Can he win? I don't know, mate. Who can know? It could be a wet race and we might have another Calquetro victory, which every Brit should be absolutely rooting for right now. That'd be brilliant to see that again. Moto 2, bit more clear-cut, I think. We're going to be looking at Franco Morbidelli. Fine form as always, and I think Mattia Pacini could be a bit of an upset. As far as Moto3 goes, Brno, if you haven't ever watched the Czech Grand Prix, watch the first race. BT Sport it's on unless you're in another country, but the only channel for you guys in Britain, unless you're on the live feed out of the MotoGP website, BT Sport, 10 o'clock Sunday morning, feet up, tea, coffee, whatever you drink, bit of toast and black pudding, you're sorted. Watch
Black pudding?
Black pudding.
I don't know where to start with that.
It's bang on. Don't start me off on black pudding stuff.
I mean, I thought I had some pretty atrocious race food.
Best. Yeah, black pudding. Nothing wrong with a bit of black pudding.
During a race?
So... Who knows? Have whatever you want, as long as it's not avocado or something, you know, something healthy. You need to have something nice or something healthy.
Some bit of grease and a few sausages and some beans.
Exactly. That's what you want. Moto 3, 10 o'clock Sunday morning. whatever refreshments and aperitifs you want. Always a belter. 2014 was a great one. 2015 was a great one. 2016, John McPhee took a victory. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll have a bit more of that come Sunday as well. So, you know, a couple of Brits on the podium. I'll tell you what, I'll have some of that. And, you know, it's definitely going to be worth watching. It probably won't be wet. I don't think it's ever rained properly for the race apart from last year.
Yeah, Kiko, it's going to be wet now you've said that.
No, when have I ever put a curse on anyone?
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely going to be a great race all across the three classes, and get watching if you haven't already.
Exactly, with your pudding in hand, or wherever you do with it. Yeah.
Well, I thought you ate it. I don't know what you do with it, Leslie. You might do something else with it.
I've never touched any sort of black pudding. If it's basically, if your pudding's black, I'm not going near it. Any food that's black, I don't want to know.
Well, do you have bacon?
I don't have any bacon. Well, there's technicalities with it, having been in a gastric band, and that's.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, and plus it's very unhealthy for you, isn't it, kids?
No.
So, mind you saying that, I did eat a lot of unhealthy. But anyway, right, that aside. Yeah, so basically, yeah, to sum up then, Kiko, the British motorcycling scene right now in 2017 has never looked more prosperous for young riders, with a proper ladder now established, right from mini bikes all the way from 5 years old, 6 years old, right straight into the BSB support, onto potentially the MotoGP support categories or World Supers, if that's still going to be desirable.
What would you want? You could become the next Alex Lowe's. BSB champion, Suzuka 8-hour winner. Let's not forget Suzuka 8 hours was the weekend just gone by.
I did.
And very impressive performance from the Yamaha team. Equally as good from Randy De Pugna, who turned into a fireman for a lap or so, trying to put out a fire on his Honda. But the Yamahas won ahead of the Kawasaki's and the Hondas. I think that result may have been a little bit different, though. I mean, we had the Yoshimura team with two of British Superbike's greatest talents in Josh Brooks and Sylvain Gintoli alongside Takuya Tsuda. Unfortunately, it didn't go to plan. Takuya Tsuda started the race and couldn't get a bike started, actually, when he got off the pit wall. Dropped down a few places, then tangled with another rider and dropped it on the floor, and they were down in 67th place, and they started second. So, you know, that was a disaster for them. Whether or not they could have won it or finished second, I'm not sure, but I definitely think a top three, definitely a top five. I think they finished seventh in the end. Oh, excuse me. I think they finished seventh in the end. So, you know, they had the pace, and they definitely had the riders. The problem with Takuya dropping it, of course, was that the next rider on was Josh Brooks. And, you know, suddenly Josh found himself with a load of pressure on, and he was actually lapping quicker than the leaders for a lot of it, but he was well back. You know, the pressure was to do 2:08, which is a good time around Suzuka on the endurance bike. And, you know, luckily Josh succeeded in that, but they were so far back, they were never going to win it unless there was a dramatic crash or something at the front, or, you know, acts of God played into hands, Leicester.
Don't start with acts of God.
We don't want any acts of God.
Exactly. Yeah. Coolfab Racing's Ollie Walker knows a thing or two about that. Sorry, Ollie. Sorry about that. But yeah.
Back to the Josh Brooks bit as well. Don't let me forget, on the qualifying night, I've never seen, and I swear on my life, Josh Brooks, I've never seen a save like that. That was mega. That dipped his knee into the grass at turn 2. It dug in, flicked him off the bike. He was holding on with one hand in the end. Oh, the pictures of it. He shared it on Twitter. Go over and have a look at Josh Brooks. Check it out. It is incredible. Unbelievable.
Was it better than the rider? I forget who it was. I think it was Assen last year in Moto 3.
Nicholas Hayo a couple of years ago. Puts that to bed. Puts it to bed. Honestly, It makes it look all right. Makes it look like the racing line. Josh Brooks put in an incredible effort, not just in the race, but to stay on the thing in qualifying. And this is the problem as well. I must stress, this is the problem. You go off to do these invitational events. If you end up injured out there, You're not getting wages. You're out of the series contention. There's nothing you can do if you're out injured. These are massively big, risky events. You know, so if someone was to come into British Superbikes out of World Superbikes, for Alex Lowe's, for example, if he was to come in at Cadwell Park, his local circuit, and crash, well, this World Superbike season just gone down the pan, really, hasn't it? You know, if he's injured himself. These wildcard, these invitational events, these are events that, as much as you all want to win at, like the TT's another one, it's very important you stay bike fit and you stay fit, because you cannot forget what you are contracted to do mainly, and that's to ride in your respective championship. So if you end up injured, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, you could also, on the reverse side of that, you could also injure yourself having a black pudding.
You could injure yourself having a black pudding, you know, but you could also injure yourself, you know, I don't know, getting a gastric band fitted, for example, you know, who knows, could put you out for a whole year.
To be fair, I'm not a BSB rider, and I've never, I mean, like, I'm someone who's like, would probably struggle on an automatic bike, to be honest. With the
You said that, not me.
So I have no aspirations of ever, you know, following Andy Reid into BSB or anything like that. Just because I know the talent lies elsewhere. Where you unleash your musings and some such in journalism reports and breaking stories and interviews.
Journalism reports. I was just about to bring my iMac to the toilet. You know, I didn't want you to get that bit wrong. But no, you can watch all things and read all things on the Picker Online. Great little website. We've just had it done up, actually. We've just had it refurbished. I haven't got the rentage actually for per calendar month, so Ohms Under the Hammer episode is going to be a bit delayed, but it's just been all renovated nice and new, and it is bang on. It really is. Go and check out the content. I've got a Shane Byrne exclusive article up there. I've got a Bradley Ray feature piece on there. I've got a Jason O'Halloran piece, and there's 2 more to come. Oh, and Steve Parrish. Let's not forget Engine Stavros that you interviewed and pestered the other day.
Briefly, he was sort of on the way to somewhere else. But, yeah.
I saw that. There's the Parrish interview up there, and find out what his favourite prank is, and find out what he's done with his remote control rat. That's something for you to do, all you people out there. Go and find out and go and talk to Steve Parrish about his remote control rat. Definitely something to look forward to. But no, there's loads of stuff. There's a Bjorn Esman interview coming up. I'm going to talk to Bradley Ray over the weekend down in Slut. And there's also a Keith Farmer interview, which is going up any moment. I must say there is another interview coming up about an interview with Brent Gladwin, the team owner of GI Motorsport, of WD-40. He run Tommy Bridle in the Superbikes, Mason Law and the South Connect Academy in Stock Thousands, and Liam Delves down in Motor3. And don't forget, for all you Cool Fab viewers out there, it's also Josh Bannister in the WD-40 back in the, I think it's the AC40s or something like that. It's in the Cool Fab paddock anyway. That interview is coming up. However, I got a message through from Brent today that he has been a little bit unwell. So all my best wishes to all of his family and him, of course. So he's going to have a read of that when he gets a moment. So there's an interview coming up there as well. Loads of content. There's going to be a Rob Winfield interview coming out next week when I meet him at Thruxton again. Sean Winfield, I'll probably chat to Josh Brooks. And I'm staying in the Anvil camp for a little while because I'm going to chat to his manager as well, Tony Morris. I'm going to get a few nice, non-controversial words out of him, I'm fairly sure. So loads of content coming out. Keep it out on Twitter. Keep looking at my profile and you will learn not so much, but you'll probably read a lot of interesting stuff for sure. Like I said at the moment, Bradley Ray's article is out and you can look on his wall if you want. You can look on his Twitter. So loads of stuff coming out. And of course, if you want the image side of British Superbike thing, no, my mum's through there actually. I'll get her in if you want.
We would love that chat one day.
One day, okay.
One day,
okay.
Certainly. But
Christy's watch myself, but no, there's an chicken fried rice waiting for me in the kitchen, so I might go and have a little nibble at that throughout the night. You know, just keep my carbohydrate levels up. As you can see, I'm not. I'm below body weight. You know, that's my problem.
Yeah, it must be all that globe trotting to.
It's all this stress with flying to luxury holiday places, and you know,
getting involved with ISIS and such.
Well, no, Hezbollah and Hamas are my scenes, I've got to say.
And on that note, we will say GP also 2 and the scene and Talent Cup and basically everything. And you're more than welcome to come back again on next week's show to tell us what happened in the British Superbike Championship and MotoGP as well, and how the Black Pudding was.
Oh, just before I go, a little bit of more plugging.
Okay.
Keith Ewan,
yes.
keep your eye out on my Twitter profile on the...
into that as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? Get that trending wider on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Kiko, thank you very much for being on tonight's show. And yes, just a very quick reminder as well for those who are interested regarding the Kawasaki rider training services, the KRTS. They are giving away an introductory taster session worth £49 for the scheme, and we have also we have that to give away, and all you have to do is basically name the 2 riders who are racing in the BSB for the JG Speedfit Kawasaki team. 2 riders, 1 answer. So get in touch with us when we open the page on our website. You have to basically just join up to our website, motorsport.radio. It's free, don't worry about it, and send us the answer. The competition will close this coming Saturday, the 5th of August at 12 midday. The only terms and conditions are that you must be 17, or the person who is the winner must be 17 and over. The prize is for 1 2-wheeled experience, and any additional costs associated out of that are not included, such as travel and stuff. If you put yourself up in a hotel, that's your side of things. The prizes must be redeemed by the end of 2017, by the 31st of December, and they can book on. You can book onto the actual course up to and including the 30th of September 2018. And we will be reminding you daily about how to win our competition, which is for a wonderful 2-wheeled experiences, thanks to the Kawasaki Rider Training Service, and something that Kelvin Fletcher is very much an advocate of, and I think I am now, to be honest, as well, because having learned what it is, and that it's aimed at people like me, of all people. And I don't really consider myself that bigger sort of a petrol head when it comes to bikes anyway. Riding a bike until I got involved with the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship and subsequently got involved in the entire motorcycle scene. Really, never really sort of entertained the prospect of me getting on a bike. Partly because I always just presumed I was more of a car person, but yes, I've been certainly converted onto the ways of 2 wheels, and I would personally be very interested in checking this out. If you are interested in checking out more about the Kawasaki Rider Training Service, head to the website kawasaki-krts.co.uk. I'll put a link on our website, motorsport.radio, where you can enter to see if you are lucky. It's a perfect gift for a friend or family member who you want to have experience, have that experience. So do get them to join and refer it, and share this post, because all the details will be on this post as well as posts throughout the week. So that's all well and good. A couple of other things to quickly mention before we end tonight's program, and that is 2 more interviews. One with Michael O'Brien, going back to the Silverstone Classic that me and Dan Marr were at the weekend. Nice bit of grammar. But anyway, at the end of the first Formula Ford 50 race, celebrating 50 years of Formula Ford in the historic racing scene, Michael O'Brien, who is a fantastically quick young driver racing in historic Formula Fords, and also the SsangYong Pickup Truck Championship on the MSVR package. Anyway, he won his first race, and I caught up with him after he did so, and here's our chat. At Silverstone Classic, and I'm here with Michael O'Brien, who is celebrating after his first race victory this weekend. Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a really tough race this morning, but we managed to come through and win, so really happy with that. Couldn't be better.
Well, just talk us through these Formula Ford cars then for you. What do you drive, and tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so this year I'm lucky enough to do a couple of different championships, the Formula Ford 50 and the SsangYong Pickup Truck Challenge, which now I've had wins in both this season. The Formula Ford's obviously a very different open wheel car with a small 1600 engine, but it's actually, because of the weight, very quick. And then the pickups, obviously very different again, with having that weight, sitting higher up, and a different driving style. But both championships have been really good because it's taught me a lot, and my technique's getting better all the time.
How much can you learn from two extremely different vehicles? One's an actual pickup truck, and one's a thoroughbred sort of Formula Ford racing car.
Yeah, obviously there's no real crossovers in terms of driving style and setup, but actually having that variety of car to drive really gives you...
In Silverstone Classic, it is literally everything and anything on display, with lots of different things in the paddock to see, demonstration cars and loads of different things. Is this your first year here?
Yeah, well, it's first year racing. I came to the 2013 event where we had a different driver driving in Formula Ford, but first time racing this year, so it's got off to a good start.
And for you, tell us what it's like to even race these cars. I mean, surely is this sort of where you see your future? Do you want to do other things, maybe?
Yeah, I would like to do more historic stuff. It's very enjoyable and almost a bit low pressure compared to the modern racing. To be honest, the quality of the field this year and how competitive it is has really made the championship exciting. There's 10 young guys that are all trying to progress through the ranks, driving really well, that could win. So I think for learning, for me at the moment, this is probably the championship to be in.
Well, what is the field like? Not everybody is an expert on these historic Formula Fords. There is a lot of, like you say, a lot of good competition here. Is that surely that's something that continues to make the grid pretty big year on year?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a capacity grid here, which is great, and there is just so much competition all the way down the order. You've got battles from the front to the back, all different ability levels, which makes the racing really good, and everyone that's in the race almost has someone to overtake or to dice with throughout.
Fantastic stuff. Michael, thank you very much for joining us on Motorsport Radio, and we will keep track with how you get on for the rest of the season.
Great, thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Callan O'Keefe, and this is Motorsport Radio.
This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.
Yes, hello. My name is Lester. This is Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio, and thank you very much for just tuning in to us. If you have, well, you've missed most of the show. Don't worry though, because it's available to replay back anytime. Check out our website, motorsport.radio, for the competition, where you can win a two-wheeled experience thanks to the Kawasaki Rider Training Service, worth £49. Just answer this question. Who are the two riders racing in the BSB in 2017 with the JG Speedfit Kawasaki team? If you think you know, head to our website, motorsport.radio. I'm going to put a little form on there, fill it out. Make sure you sign up to motorsport.radio, a small, fast-growing community of like-minded folk who like to listen and watch fantastic videos on there, and also listen to our podcasts. But basically, yeah, the competition is open till this Saturday, the 5th of August, closes at 12 midday. You've got to be 17 years or over. The price is for one two-wheeled experience worth £49, and no other associated costs. The prize must be redeemed by the 31st of December 2017, and you can book the course from up to and including the 30th of September 2018. Not bad, I would think, and it's I would say a perfect prize for anyone who's perhaps considering getting into bike racing, or might even not even racing, perhaps just who's a total noob at any sort of bikes. And it literally is a fantastic taster session, and what you might even call a two-wheeled experience. Something that I probably had to have a go at. I actually want to have a go at it, but We'll see. Anyway, one last interview before we go, and it is with David Brabham, back at the Silverstone Classic from the weekend. And David, I caught up with. He was there on sort of official Brabham duties, if you like, and well, partly that, and also to come and check out his old racing cars and his dad's old racing cars, because there were many Brabham cars there racing at the weekend of many different varieties, I have to say. And yeah, this is my quick little 5-minute interview where I also grill him about the latest on the Brabham project, which you might recognise was launched well over a year ago now, and you might not have heard much about it since then. Well, I asked him what's going on with it, and he tells us.
At the 2017 Silverstone Classic, and I'm talking to David Brabham. Hello there.
How you doing, all right?
I'm well. We are in a lovely and loud pit lane, and surely some of these beautiful machines must bring back some fabulous memories for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some of my dad's old cars, and I managed to drive my old 1993 Jaguar that I raced in Le Mans and finished first on the podium, and then we got the later, but we won't talk about that. So it's nice to see 40 XJ220 behind me on the parade.
What you're doing here, what's your involvement this weekend at the 2017 Silverstone Classic?
Well, that was really my main involvement, really was to drive the XJ220 and lead the parade, which is what we've done now. I'm walking around and catching up with some friends like I was with Jim Richards, and yeah, just enjoying it like everybody else.
Well, what about the future for you and the Brabham brand and the name, the project as well? Give us an update on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's been quite a challenge, to be honest with you. But there's certain things that are kind of happening now which give me a lot more hope to be honest with you. So any stumbling blocks along the way to your plans? So yeah, I mean, I noticed that. I mean, we've been keeping in regular touch with your son Sam, who's now driver coaching the likes of Manuel Maldonado in F3, and hopefully he'll be back in a racing soon. But tell us more about the actual project itself. I mean, is that indefinitely delayed, or is that what stage are we at with that now? Well, the best way for me to describe it is the way we were taking it to market in terms of trying to raise finance to be able to get it up and running was difficult.
Crowdfunding?
Well, no, it was past the crowdfunding.
But to see the Brabham name, or one of the Brabhams, whether it's yourself or Sam back in a race seat, or both of you together in something soon.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've both had to sacrifice quite a lot of our own careers as such to get this project up and running. Well, once we got the Brabham name out there doing something, Sam would be in a great position to slot in that. Where I fit in that as a driver, who knows? But I've always tried to do this on the long term, not the short term. I could have spent all my time and effort trying to get Sam 1 or 2 years of racing, and then what do you do after that if something doesn't happen? All I've been trying to do the last, well, really more than 10 years, I guess, I've been on this path with the Brabham name, with the court case I was involved in, which took 7 years to sort out before I could do anything. So it's been a long, kind of slow process, but the foundations are going down, and I'm glad I did it that way, because the future is a lot better than what a short-term future would be.
Well, whatever the future holds, I'm sure that the Brabham name will not be going away now that it seems like you have a brighter future and you're in control of it with and also, yeah, it'd be great to see you at more events like this as well. I think maybe you missed a bit of a trick in not entering a full race here. I know you was doing a couple of laps here.
Well, I was going to. I was in the A35 race, but then they rang up and said they didn't have the cars, so I wasn't involved. So.
Oh well, it happens like that, doesn't it? That's racing sometimes. But yeah, David, thank you very much for giving us an update, and we'll catch up with you with more good news soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Cheers.
David Brabham chatting to myself at the Silverstone Classic over the weekend, which was, by all accounts, a wonderful, wonderful event, as we touched on earlier, myself and Dan Marr. And yeah, I just want to reiterate there, it would be superb to see the Brabham, any Brabham, back at in a major championship, back on the world stage where they belong, in either racing, as a brand, as a team. That'll be certainly fantastic to see, and let's just hope that happens pretty soon, because it's certainly where I think they're destined to be, where they deserve to be anyway, the brand, because everybody loves a Brabham in racing, don't they? Anyway, that is it for tonight's show. It went on a lot longer than I thought it would do, but there you go. As soon as we start talking about Silverstone Classics and Black Puddings and superbikes and cars and F1 cars and Super Tourers and such, we get carried away. I'd just like to thank a huge cast of people who we chatted to and interrogated over the weekend, and who include Lindsay O'Donnell, coming over from New Zealand to bring his Volvo V40 and race it, or attempt to race it at Silverstone Classic at the weekend. Also, thank you very much to Davey Brabham and John Minshaw and Gary Pearson, and to Kelvin Fletcher as well, who chatted to us, and to Steve Parrish and Nick Yellerley and Michael O'Brien and to Kiko Alexander-Giles and to Dan Marr as well, who was presenter, interviewer, cameraman, and an all-round good chap as well. And thank you very much for watching. Do give us a share and a like for this stream. It all helps, and thank you very much. We'll hopefully be back again reporting on what happens at this weekend's British GT Championship at Brands Hatch. Do come down for that, because the Formula 3 Championship and 3 more glorious races happening in that, and it'll be fantastic to see what does happen in the championship. Will Anam Ahmed stretch and his championship advantage? Will he have a stranglehold? Will he get 2 hands on the trophy? He's not quite there yet. Or will someone else come good? Will James Paul get his first win of the season? Don't know why I did that. But we'll find out next week, Monday, live at 8-ish, right here on motorsport.radio.
This is Motorsport Radio.